Hey guys, welcome to the show, 888-659-3727. Great to be live. Well, great to be alive, first of all. And great to be live here from TBT Studios in Los Angeles doing the Hair Loss Show. This is The Bald Truth. Welcome. Always great to be here doing a live show. You know, I was away last week. I think you guys know, who have been following the program for a long time, that we haven't been doing the show live every week. I've been recording a lot of stuff, putting stuff out there, doing the show maybe 3 times a month live if we're lucky. We're going to try to, be more consistent with the live broadcast, but had a lot of interesting stuff happening this year, a lot of good stuff. So I just wanted to let you guys know, for all you guys who have been writing me, all of you guys who have been emailing us through the Bald Truth, and even through our other resources, guys who have been kind of like trying to contact me through the back end of our message forum, Bald Truth Talk. I want to thank you for your interest. I know you guys want the live show. That's why we're here tonight. 888-659-3727. By the way, if you actually want to contact me, it's not, usually the forum is not the best way to try to go about it. You can contact me through thebaldtruth.com, and someone on my staff will, depending on the situation, might forward me the email, or they'll try to respond themselves. Again, the phone number, 888-659-3727. Great to be here. If you're new to the broadcast, don't know who I am or why I'm here, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. I'm the author of The Bald Truth and The Truth About Women's Hair Loss, and I am a guy who has been dealing with hair loss for the past 3 decades. Now, the last time I said that, I said 2 decades, or over 2 decades. But the truth is, in about 2 weeks, and I really should turn my air conditioner off because I hear it in my mic. In about 2 weeks, I'm going to be 50 years old. I started to lose my hair at the tender age of 21, and I have been fortunate enough to save a good amount of hair using FDA-approved medication. The drug that I use is Finasteride, very controversial drug, especially in the last, since about 2005, 2006. But the truth is, it is what has really helped me live the life that I live today. The reason I'm behind this mic, the reason I am an international best-selling author, the reason I have been on the radio and in internet broadcasting for 18 years is because I had success with this drug. That's what motivated me to do what I do. When I was doing my initial research, when I was trying to find help for myself back in the dark ages of hair loss, it was impossible. It was like there was really nothing out there to help me. And once I felt that I had made some strides, once I realized that I was actually able to do something for myself, I decided to not only share that information, but to kind of expose the industry for what it was back in 1998. The sad truth is, not much has changed. Okay, we have much better surgical hair restoration today. We have drugs, FDA-approved drugs that we know work, but the same drugs were working back then. They are getting closer to, getting more tools in our toolbox, so to speak. But there are still companies out there selling all kinds of crap, hyping up all kinds of bullshit, trying to get you to buy ebooks and lotions and potions and natural herbal preparations and whatever they can think of to try to get hair loss sufferers, vulnerable hair loss sufferers, to spend their cash. You know what the truth is? The truth is you guys will spend your cash. Most guys will be ripped off at least once before they find the American Hair Loss Association, before they find The Bald Truth, this broadcast, or one of our resources. That's just the way that it is. And if you go to Bald Truth Talk, and I read the forum today, you see the desperateness still. Now, I would say, I know the reasonable sections that we see on the forum are the hair transplant sections, the areas where people are talking about what is working today. But when you look at like the cutting edge treatment section, it's wild. When I read the desperateness and I see what goes on the message forms. That's why it's so important. Even though it is a message form that I own, please take whatever you read on a message form with a grain of salt, unless you know the source, unless you know where that information is coming from. Anyway, I'm going to get to the phones in a second. I want to say hi to Joe Tillman, who is on hold. The original hair transplant mentor, decided to have him on the program again tonight because we like having him on. Joe, how are you, man?
I'm feeling kind of foolish because I just found out that all these things that you're talking about are scams.
You know, and
it's like, what?
You know, the sad thing, Joe, is that you bought into the scams. I bought into the scams, and even though I've been doing this for almost 20 fucking years, and I can't believe it. I'm going to be 50 in a week and a half, which is unbelievable. But the fact that I've been doing this for so long, I made it, and I still have hair in my head.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You made it. You know, it's like in 2 weeks, dude, you can hang it up.
Well, you know, that's a very funny thing, because there are guys out there who are 25 years old who are on the forums who think when they reach my age, they're not going to want to look good, that they're not going to feel, it's not going to make a difference. Let me tell you, I was in Vegas this week, and I was sitting at a bar. Common Law went upstairs to do something, and this was not a hooker bar. At least I don't think it was. And this person was at the bar, gambling, hanging out, whatever it is, started to talk to me. And one of the first things she commented on was that she loved the color of my hair. The color of my hair. The fact that she was able to mention that I had a hair color at all. Because at that point, at 50 years old, when I was 21 years old, I thought I would have no hair in my head. That was an amazing feeling.
Now, was this woman like some, pardon the pun, transplant from New Jersey that's, like smoker, raspy voice? Honey, I love the color of your hair. It's just so lovely.
Well, you know what? It wouldn't even matter if she was. She happened to be a young, hot, like Hawaiian chick, but that doesn't make a difference. She could have been 70 years old. The fact that I got a compliment on the color of my hair was the greatest feeling in the world.
The fact that you have color in your hair.
That's right.
That's what's awesome, right?
I tell people, they ask me, like, why don't I dye my hair? Like, on camera, you can't really see how salt and pepper it is. But in person, it's very gray. And I'm like, why would I dye it? I don't care if it turns blue. I really don't, as long as I have it on my head. So you're right. It's a huge victory. And you're in the same position. I mean, you obviously, you had a much different story than mine, but you are a guy now who is, how old are you, 45?
45, yeah. I'll be 46 this year.
Jesus.
I know.
Believe it. Yeah.
And I'm listening to you talking about, 30 years of hair loss. I'm thinking to myself, Jesus, it's a long time for him. I'm like, wait a minute. It's almost that long for me, too. God,
I know, man. Fucking time flies.
We're getting up there, right? Yeah, time flies. But it's like, I was joking around with someone the other day. They're talking about we're talking about my hair transplant, and I think it was a patient I was talking to on the phone, and I said, the funny thing about my hair transplant is it allows me to get better looking as I get older, because all my friends are losing their hair, and I'm standing still in a time capsule.
Yeah,
with my hair, right?
Well, and that's the thing. It doesn't matter. Like there was, people every once in a while, I'll use a lot of hairspray, or some dicks on the message form will make fun of it. I don't give a fuck. I don't care what they think. I don't care if I have to style it. Like I always say, it's like Trump the early years. I have hair on my head because we made the right moves. You made the right moves, obviously, for yourself.
Yeah.
After you made some mistakes, but it's true. As you get to this point in life, you're kind of like one of the last men standing.
That's what it turns out to be. And, I kind of on a related subject, it's like I was talking to someone about my procedures. He says, he's talking about how amazing it is that I've had almost 10,000 grafts. And especially after having 2 repair surgeries. And he says, to get mega sessions like that are fantastic. I said, hold on. No, I've never had a mega session.
Yeah.
I've had multiple smaller procedures, and that has allowed me to get to the point now where as a 45-year-old man, I've got hair that a lot of guys probably half my age don't have, and I don't have to spend a lot of time on it. I'm actually to the point now where I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I just comb my hair right out of the shower, and it dries on its own, almost styled.
Yeah, I
don't have to worry about. I mean, it's like if the wind blows and stuff, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I still do. I actually had to order hairspray via room service when I was in Vegas this weekend because I ran out. I actually brought enough that for most people it would last them like a week.
Yeah.
But to me, that's my big deal. That's my cross to bear.
That's your cross to bear. But let me clarify. It's like I'm talking about around the house, or like if I'm running errands and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm going out to an event or something, I will spend a little more time on it, hit it with some hairspray and blow dry and stuff like that. But it's still a nice feeling to be able to not have to worry about it at this point in my life.
You know what I'm thinking right now as we're having this conversation? Like tonight, right now, GFQ, our program, is the #1 app on Apple TV. So anyone who's watching Apple TV right now, we come up as #1. And there's two middle-aged men talking about spraying their hair. It's not some tech show. It just cracks me. It just cracks me up.
It is funny, I mean, who'd have thunk it? And if you were to try to pitch this to someone today, they'd laugh in your face.
Oh my God, any day. I mean, back in 1998, they laughed in my face.
Yeah, back in the day when you were trying to get this off.
Being on the air for 20 years doing what I did. Listen, there are internet broadcasters, guys who were on terrestrial radio that are doing what we do now on the internet, and they're having some monicum of success. And they were extremely successful on radio. And I remember the days, and this is one guy in particular, where, at least his staff, maybe not him because he never said anything to me personally, but they never took the show seriously. And one of his staff members worked for me. It was just like they thought it was just this infomercial. They had no idea what it was, how this guy makes a living, whatever it is. We've outlasted every program that, any type of, brokered program like ours. Over a decade. I've seen some guys who've gone on there, maybe they've lasted 1 or 2 years. We've been on the air for 20 years, and there's a reason for it. And the reason we have so much success on the internet is because the internet it's basically a democracy. It's democratic. People choose to watch and listen to what they want to watch and listen to. It's not up to program directors. So the reason we're a lot of times a #1 show, the reason we can get 100,000 live views, the reason we're on on the #1 app on Apple TV, is because people give a shit about this. That's it.
They give a shit about it, but you've also got and to tip the hat, you've also got Andrew Zarian behind you.
Absolutely.
Pushing the hell out of this.
Absolutely.
Right? Working those phones, as it were, as you might say, to really network this thing that he's created called GFQ Network.
Well, what's amazing? Andrew contacted me today, and there are companies that want to sponsor The Bald Truth. I have to, it kills him, but I have to turn them down. Now, we're settling on some sponsors. They are not going to be hair related. But these are big companies.
Jim Beam?
No, but these are big companies, and it's when I feel bad that I want Andrew to make as much money as he can from The Bald Truth, but I still have to do my best to maintain the integrity of the show. It's bad enough that when people are actually viewing it on some of the online resources like even Ustream, that there's a lot of ads running. But what am I going to do? Tell Andrew not to play? I mean, he's got to make money.
Of course.
But
he's got to do his thing. He put it together for a reason.
But listen,
multiple reasons.
I give GFQ tremendous props. I mean, they were the only guys that ever came to me and I was on the air for years, that ever said, "Listen, this is something great. I want to work with you. I didn't know this kid from anybody, and he did his thing, and he's great at what he does. So you're right. I'm glad you gave him his props." Before we get into a conversation, the phones are lit up. Let's take one phone call. And I know that you had some stuff that you wanted to talk about, but let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Spencer. How are you?
Okay, how are you? Who's this?
I'm very well. My name is Paul.
Paul.
Hello, Paul.
Hey, Paul, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New York.
Paul, welcome to the show. What's happening, man?
Thank you so much. So, Spencer, I've been listening to your program for several years. I think I've been losing my hair now since probably about I don't know, maybe 15 years.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And in the midst, well, you know what? I'll tell you. In the midst of it, I received a spectacularly successful hair transplant.
Awesome.
Oh yes, it was definitely a life changer, and a lot of it had to do with listening to your show and making the right decisions, and reading forums and some common sense. And Joe Tillman, while you're on the air, I have to certainly give you credit because you definitely chimed in along the way and really gave some terrific advice.
I appreciate that. I'm glad to help.
Oh yeah, listen, I really thank you for that. So, you know, it's been, so I had about like maybe 7 glory years of enjoying the results. And I think I pretty much kind of did everything right, sort of. I mean, I was on Finasteride for prior to the surgery for a couple years, and had continued to take it. And you know, kind of at the point now where I guess the inevitable is starting to happen, and this is all in the frontal region.
Wait, I have one question. So you've been losing your hair for 15 years. How old are you now?
I am 42.
Okay, so you're still relatively young.
I hope you're right.
I think you are. Listen, when you're about to hit the 50 mark, 42 sounds like a baby.
Yeah, you know, I mean, listen, I'm blessed to say that. Some people still call me in my 30s, you know, and
yeah.
I get down on my knees and I thank them, you know, it's my best friend.
Absolutely, man. Go with it. You're a kid.
So, you know, I have to admit now that, you know, sort of the inevitable has happened, and the existing, I guess the original hair in that region has since fallen out over the years. I guess, you know, nature has taken its course, even though I remained on Finasteride that entire time. And I am rather lucky because the surgeon did such an excellent job that
who was your surgeon?
The Dr. Feller.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. You know, he did. I saw him a short while ago. Really thanked him in person, actually. And you know, so I have basically, you know, so I've lost some ground, and you know, because of, you know, just like I said, you know, the original hair combined with your transplanted hair. I mean, that's the great combination. But so the original hair, you know, my native hair in that area, you know, has fallen out over these years. So now I'm kind of like, you know, I kind of got addicted to Dermatch, and then I that was working for me for a while, and then I kind of got on Topic and that sort of thing, and I'm really kind of at the stage of where the anxieties and frustrations and, you know, I mean, dare I say depression that I was originally facing when I started losing my hair is now kind of coming back into play.
Okay. Well, I get that, and I'm sorry to hear you're dealing with this.
Yeah, you know, I mean, listen, you know, it sucks, and you know, not a day goes by, I suppose, where sometimes you kind of wonder, should I have just shaved all this off? You know, would I have been better off? You know, it's a question. I don't know if there's a right answer to it. You know.
Well, I think that's actually something that Joe can probably touch on from a personal point of view. But I mean, do you have a specific question that you want to ask?
Yeah, you know, I do in a sense, and you know, so a lot of this is kind of coming back to me now. You know, there were so many years where, you know, in the past 7-8 years where I wasn't really thinking about, you know, my hair loss so much. I mean, that's the whole point. About like, you know, about 5 months ago, I got cable TV for the first time in a long time. Game of Thrones had a lot to do with that.
Okay. Because
I was kind of tired of trying to pirate it like that. It was just in the
we can talk later. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So, you know, so I've been watching cable, and there are shows, programs that I enjoy, and I combine that with Netflix as well, So I'm kind of, unfortunately, sort of watching a lot more TV than I used to. And I gotta tell you, it has really it has really contributed to my current emotional state. Seeing the way that consistent, abundant manner. I mean, I will go.
Say that again. You just broke up again. Say that again.
I'm sorry. In a consistent and abundant manner, 99.9% of the time, when you see a character come on the screen who has any visible signs of hair loss, and I hate to say it out loud, but I do believe there is some accuracy to this, especially if it's a Caucasian man who's not playing the role of somebody's grandfather. These characters are portrayed in the most uncharismatic manner you can possibly imagine a character to be portrayed.
I would agree.
They have no positive attributes whatsoever. They are,
unless they're like an accountant or a doctor.
Well, boy, Spencer, I don't know. I mean, I kind of I suppose I wouldn't necessarily call an accountant to be like a sexy profession, so to speak. It's like, well, I don't really know if
neither's being a hair loss guru, but
Well, sure,
yeah.
and so it's kind of like, it's really brought me down. I like watching. I want to enjoy these programs. I like to enjoy media. I like to enjoy pop culture and that sort of thing. I mean, I think I have reasonable taste. As far as, it's not like I'm watching e-television all the time. Where everybody is chiseled from the peaks of Mount Olympus.
Right.
I mean, I'm trying. I'm kind of sticking to somewhat realistic shows, I suppose. But it has done, there's two things that are going on here. First of all, it has completely destroyed my self-esteem. Seeing people who look like me or who kind of share this genetic disease, portrayed in such a negative manner all the time. And it also really, and so the one challenge there that I think a lot of people have to go through in society is, first of all, you have to convince yourself, that's not me. That's not a representation of who I am. It's only television. It's only the movies.
Right.
This is all scripted. This is all cast, et cetera. So you have that one challenge where you have to convince yourself that, look, I know this is bullshit. I'm not a loser. It's like, I'm not a coward. I'm not all these, horrible characteristics they give these characters. My real concern, once I kind of pass that exercise, is what on earth is everybody else thinking about these people? I
think it depends on how old the people are, and also, what I would do every once in a while, I would get off the couch and go to Walmart and walk up and down the aisles, see how really fucked up people live and look.
That's a great piece of advice.
because
I don't think there's a Walmart in New York City, but maybe I can find some sort of.
Just walk outside.
Yeah, just
walk down the street.
Just walk down the street, even in New York, man. Just
go get a slice someplace. You'll see it.
Yeah, or you take the train out to Flushing, okay? Just or to Corona. Just see how fucked up people really are in real life.
Well, these fucked up people that you see on the street, they just kind of pass you by, and you don't think about them. You don't really acknowledge them. But the people that are portrayed on a show like Game of Thrones, for instance, that I mentioned earlier back, this is a program that's watched by millions and millions of people, possibly the most popular program of all time, I think. And, all characters on that show, I mean, if any of those characters have signs of hair loss, they are just it's hard to watch.
But you have to understand that television in general, even if they're casting older characters, television is a young game. The writers in television are mostly under the age of 35. The producers of television are in the same age bracket, believe it or not. Yes, there are those who have been in the business for a long time, and they're older, and they're in their 40s, 50s, and even 60s. But the truth is, television and the media is a young man's game and a young woman's game. And a lot of it is, unfortunately, run by women now. So, I mean, this is the mentality. It's about selling ads. It's about getting eyeballs. People want to look at what's perceived as better looking characters. If someone is playing a romantic lead, they're going to have a full head of hair. They're going to have that chiseled jaw. They're not going to have a beer gut. I mean, that's just the way that it is. There was a commercial that was out a few years ago. It was for a credit score website. And I don't know if you guys remember this, Joe. Maybe you do. Mm-hmm. And there was two really in shape, great looking guys with full heads of hair that both had over a 750 credit score. And the guy that had like a 575 credit score was a bald, short, pudgy guy. And to me, that said it all, man.
Yeah.
That's a prime example.
Yeah, that represented, everything that we as hair loss sufferers are so concerned about. But you have to transcend that.
It comes down to this: sex sells. Period. End of story. And pretty people subconsciously denote sex, attraction, right? And it's funny you're talking about Game of Thrones because there's a guy I know in the UK. He's an actor. He's not on Game of Thrones, but he's on another show from the UK that's very similar. It's no longer in production now, but he actually has had a hair transplant to address about a 1/4 inch of recession. And aside from that small transplant, he's got a completely full head of hair. And I've talked to him and some other people I know in the entertainment industry, and every one of them have confirmed that Hollywood does not like scalp.
Right.
They don't like part lines.
Yeah,
I mean, like literally, this guy has a thick full of head of hair, and even the part line is filled with concealer before production begins.
It for whatever reason, also because of the lighting and just everything, they look at it as, a weakness. People think that when you're seeing a widened part line, my computer's going nuts, as being, unhealthy, as being older, as being,
Sickly.
less virile. That's just the way that it is. And in television, it's even more magnified. It doesn't mean that if you go to a bar, or if you're, at a nightclub, or if you are, whatever, taking a class, or you're just around people socially, it doesn't mean they're looking at you and thinking, wait a second, this guy looks like that freak in Game of Thrones. No one's thinking that way. But I understand, there's definitely a certain amount of pressure that we all feel because of the media, and it sucks. But think about what women have to go through. Think about what women go through.
Well, I think that, first of all, male actors have a heck of a lot of elbow room when it comes to being portrayed in a positive light. Look
at Robert De Niro. Yes, he's got a full head of hair, but he's always kind of had, especially since he got older, he's always had a kind of a banged up face.
He's never been a pretty man.
And, listen, Robert De Niro can easily be paired up with a 32-year-old knockout romantic female lead,
right?
And it's very acceptable. Same thing with look
at Russell Crowe,
Johnny Depp. Excuse me.
Look at Russell Crowe. Another example.
Right.
Again, great head of hair, and these are two guys with great heads of hair. But as far as just they're not your typical chiseled faced pretty boys that a lot of guys, especially the younger guys, but you're in your 40s now. These are the guys that, for whatever reason, the younger guys really focus on. They think if they don't look like this, they're not going to succeed in life. They're not going to get the women of their dreams, and that's not the case. It's not even portrayed that way in the media.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's male actors now like Seth Rogen, for instance, and another fellow whose name's not coming to my mind. You can be, I think as a male actor, for instance, as I was saying, you've got a lot of elbow room, as far as certain physical flaws that you can have as far as what I guess traditionally, Cary Grant or, wouldn't have, for instance, and still get really, and be portrayed in a very positive manner and be written so that the audience really roots for you and certainly get paired up with, what I guess would be a very commercially attractive female lead. But, when it comes to the hair, I think all bets are off if you can kind of get away with anything as far as, how men are portrayed, as long as you've got that full head of hair. There's another character on Game of Thrones, for instance. I think his name is Sam. His character's name is Sam. This guy weighs, with all due respect, 350 pounds. He's a very overweight person. He's a member of the Night's Watch, for those who are familiar with the show.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah. I remember who you're talking about.
He's got a beautiful full head of hair. He's got an extremely pudgy face. I would go so far as to say, I don't know what this guy's story is as far as his medical history is, but you might go so far as to say that he's possibly downright unhealthy. I think his body is possibly unhealthy. And they're even pairing him up with a female romantic, partner who is quite attractive, she's not, I'm sure when she's all made up, she's probably like drop dead gorgeous. But they even give somebody like that, that kind of leeway. And, I'll tell you, they would never, ever, ever do that for, a character who's got, any signs of hair loss.
Well, I
don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of shape they're in. If they're Jason Statham or The Rock, or somebody else who's dealing with, significant male pattern hair loss, who happens to still been able to retain their sex appeal and their attractiveness, then, that doesn't hold water.
Captain Picard.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. But, it's like this.
I think people can kind of throw out Bruce Willis, and I think people can throw out Jason. I agree with you 100%. 100%. These are the anomalies. These are the guys, right. the handful of guys that everyone throws out. But the truth is, it is possible. But you're right. I could understand if you've become kind of like a semi shut-in and you're just watching television all day and you're living in this world. And I'm not saying you're doing it all day, but you're living in this world of the media, and you just see one guy after the other with incredible, great looking head of hair, and you're kind of getting into these programs and getting into their characters, and that can really fuck with your mind. There is some reality to that. I'm worried about fucking with. I'm kind of worried about fucking with everybody else who's watching too, who might not be materialistic people, who might not really be TV junkies or anything like that. But I think it's just a human condition that if the same message is portrayed over and over and over again, especially in a visual manner, people are going to start believing it. Even on an unconscious level.
You're right. They do. There is a large segment of the population that does see it that way to some degree, but they're also kind of able to kind of walk away and realize, okay, the reality is most people in the world don't look like this. They're not doing whatever these characters are doing. They're not making this kind of money. They, these women want to have good lives as well. So they're willing to, even though some guys on the message forum or some guys who are watching the show are saying, well, I guess these women have to settle for less if they're dealing with a guy with hair loss. Well, maybe that's true, but maybe it's not really settling. Maybe Maybe they just kind of understand what reality is. Joe, we've been talking about this for years. The reality is, guys, we have to just deal with the fact that, in general, hair loss is a very misunderstood condition. I've spoken to, 65-year-old women who you would think would have a little experience in life, and they still don't understand hair loss, or they still think hair loss is unattractive, or they still will poke fun of somebody who's dealing with hair loss, or maybe just make a off-the-cuff, offhand comment without realizing they're hurting somebody's feelings. That's just the way society is.
It certainly is, and I do happen to believe that, and maybe we have somewhat of a different opinion on it. I do think that, visual media in film, television, and commercial advertisement, major source of that influence.
We don't have a difference of opinion at all. Actually, I agree with you 100%.
One thing to keep in mind is that you have to, Spencer was talking about this before, is that, this is all for advertising. It's to sell ad space on air. And the more popular the show, the more they can charge for the advertising. Name your favorite TV show that actually has commercials. Game of Thrones doesn't because it's on HBO. But, you know, the thing I've noticed is if you look at shows like Smallville that used to come on, and The Flash and Arrow and all these shows that are also really, really popular, I think that the biggest thing that's being sold is youth.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at the older characters in these shows, I mean, think about it. The actors in these shows, they're not even 25 years old, and they got these massively responsible situations that no 23-year-old or 22-year-old could handle, as far as I'm concerned. And it's always the older people, like my age, Spencer's age, your age, that are the antagonists or the evil people that they're having to fight or whatever. It's always the older people that are looked upon, not always, but more negatively than the younger people. It's always the younger people, the heroes, the ones that are selling the ad space, literally, for the show.
There's a difference, Joe, between playing a bad guy and being portrayed as a negative person. There's a lot of bad guys out there who I think people are just love, who are well over the age of 25, But I mean, bottom line is, I'll tell you something. It's like, and I'm kind of like giving some advice, perhaps, to other people who are listening to the show who might be kind of like somewhat affected by this. But as soon as this season of Game of Thrones is over and Mad Men is coming to a close as well, those are probably my two favorite shows, I'm canceling my effing cable. It's like, I'm not going to put myself through this shit anymore.
You are done.
I'm not going to pay anybody, any studio, any cable channel, or anything else to make me feel like shit. It's like, fuck you,
Listen, I just want to tell you that I get it 100%, especially when I was younger. I was very bitter about it. I was very unhappy about it. I'd sit home and I'd watch television, and I just felt like, why am I in this position? Why was I chosen to deal with this fucking living hell? Why are these guys who I felt if I had that head of hair, I would be just as attractive, if not more attractive than some of these guys, at least in my mind back when I was 21 years old, 22 years old. And, it hurt. It hurt. I was definitely in a deep depression. I wasn't handling it well. And I guess, as we get older, we just have to realize, what, this is just the world we live in. And I have to tell you, man, it's not getting any better. It's actually getting worse. And media.
Well, it is, because there's so many more platforms now that people are able to watch. Before, what was it, like maybe 40 years ago? People had a television in their living room, maybe another one in their house. There were like 3 or 4 channels that they watched. And now it's like every time you even look at something on YouTube, there's an advertisement in front of it. It's like visual medium is just growing exponentially, which is why, I'm making this call and expressing this concern. And just like you said, it is getting worse. I don't know what I can do about people's perception of it.
You can't. The only thing you can do is change your perception of things and change how you what you focus on. That's it. That's all you can do. All you can do is control what you can control.
Right. That's very good advice. Well, listen, when I cancel my cable, I hope I have the guts to tell the person, on the phone, why are you canceling your cable? I would love to tell them, because it's how you portray hair loss sufferers. I would love to do that.
Dude, I would love you to do that and record, just as like they record the conversation, you record the conversation. I would love.
I can manage that.
That would be good.
That will be a proud moment. I'll be happy to share it with you, because it'll be a really strange phone call.
I would like to hear that. I would like to hear it.
You listen, I would love to hear that. And you're right. It might go viral. And I have to tell you, man. I mean, what you brought up tonight, that's what we all deal with. And it's a really important subject. You are a guy. You're in your 40s now, and you're dealing with it. And you're dealing with it again because you feel like you say you've lost ground. You were able to move on with your life. You had a great hair transplant, live your life for a while, not thinking about your hair, and now it's all coming back. And listen, there's no way around it. It sucks. It sucks. You just have to kind of figure it out for yourself, because this is a tough life, man. No one's going to, no one's going to change your way of thinking just to appease you and to make you feel better about yourself.
I know. Nobody's going to get out of bed tomorrow and start, thinking like, let's start thinking about these fellas for a change. It's not going to happen. I get that.
No, and it sucks. Listen,
let's help Paul.
Yeah, let's help Paul with his hair loss. Listen, I tell the story all the time when I had this New Year's Eve party just this year. This woman, and it was probably unintentional, but she was just saying how hot she thought I would be if I got a haircut, and I'm trying to explain it to her. She's totally loaded. Why I wear my hair this length, and I mean, I guess she doesn't. I try to tell her what I do, whatever it was, but it was hurtful to me, and it wasn't even about being bald. It was just the fact that she was talking about my hair and the fact that women would have the audacity, any woman have the audacity, and it's definitely something that they feel they can broach for whatever reason to tell somebody to get a haircut or you would look better with a different hairstyle. Imagine if I went up to this broad and said, you know what? If you lost a little weight in your thighs, you would be so much more attractive. That wouldn't fly.
You know what? It makes a very gray area between feminism and men's rights. It's like it's kind of.
I was gonna say you say that, then you're suddenly a sexist.
That's right.
I'm telling you, it's really unbelievable. The funny thing, this is the last thing I'll say. I'll let other people try, call in. But I was speaking with somebody today, and we were standing outside. I got up this morning, all depressed about my hair and like how's it looking and stuff like that. And the sun's like out a lot longer than it used to be. And I had some solace in the winter when there was like 6 hours of daylight or something. We were talking about stuff. He was we were talking about me and my current lifestyle situation right now. And he said, yeah, look, you're a young guy. You got a full head of hair and I was thinking like, what? It's like this guy looking at me in the daylight and telling me that I have a full head of hair, and I fucking am waking up for the past several mornings, wondering when I'm going to get my second hair transplant.
Yeah. It's perception.
And there's no way to put a finger on this.
You know what?
That's true.
It's true, and it's fucked us all up, man. Look at me. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. This is what I do.
Right.
Think about that. I was talking to Joe at the beginning of the show that we're on the number one app on Apple TV right now, GFQ, and whoever is turning on Apple TV and going to that app and like what's GFQ? They're listening to a bunch of middle-aged guys talking about their hair loss. Think
Good
about
for them.
that.
We need to keep talking about it. We need to keep talking about it. And I'm glad that they're listening, and they should listen. And that's it. That's the best we can do. That's the best we can do is just keep talking about it.
Well, that's what we're going to keep doing, man. And listen, I appreciate the call. It was a great topic.
Thank you.
It was a good topic.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for
good excuse to jump back into a book.
Yeah,
off of TV, right?
Start reading.
Yeah, start reading.
Yeah, guys. Well, I would start reading, but I'm waiting for the next fucking Game of Thrones to come out. And I don't know what to read in the meantime. It's going to be 3 years. It's like
we'll pick up the books.
See my problem.
Pick up the books. It's all based on books, right? So.
Yeah,
all right.
Listen, I'll find something. All
right, man.
Thanks,
you
guys.
take care. Good call.
Right on.
Thanks.
Good call, man.
All
yeah,
right.
Bye-bye.
888-659-3727. Yeah, man. I mean, that's the way of the world. That's the way of the world. We got to just deal with it.
It is. And, you're talking about when you're 21, you're sitting there, you're kind of bummed out by what was on television as well. But you didn't realize that half the guys that you were watching on TV were wearing wigs.
I had no idea.
You had no idea.
No idea.
And most people today don't realize that everyone's wearing wigs.
I never forget. It was like, I'm pretty sure it was like November 1978. We're watching television. I think it was, I forgot the movie. It was Burt Reynolds. And I think it was my father. Someone was in the house, told my mother that Burt Reynolds was wearing a piece. And my mother, it was like someone just shot her dog, man. I mean, she was so mortified.
I learned the same thing about Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit. My father said the same thing. That he said something about him wearing a wig. And I was like, get out. No. He doesn't wear a wig. And my sisters were losing their damn minds because they were like, huge fans of Burt Reynolds. All the other ladies were, and they were just losing their minds. They're like, there's no way. And he was like, yeah, look, it's a wig.
I mean, it devastated my mother. So what are you going to do?
What do you do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's take another phone call. I'm not sure if this is, I'm actually not sure who this is. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Oh, Spencer, hi. This is Mike from New Jersey.
Mike from New Jersey. How are you?
Hello, Mike.
Yeah, good. Hello. Wow. Yeah, I've called you a few times in the distant past, Spencer. But just what that guy was saying, Mike Nichols. Excuse me, I'm out of breath. I'm kind of walking here.
That's okay.
Mike Nichols passed away. What was that? About 4 or 5 months ago.
Right.
Did you read his obituary?
I did not.
He wore a piece his entire life. From when he was a young man, he wore a hairpiece his entire life.
And that was in his obit?
Yeah, it was in his obit. I think he suffered from alopecia or something from a very young age. Yeah.
How come I didn't know that?
Let
me see that right now.
Yeah. That took me a little bit by surprise.
Yeah. Well, listen, and again, who would know? Yeah, actually, I'm looking at it right now. That's interesting.
Yeah. Hey, a guy who you're familiar with, being from New York, Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah, of course. Guardian Angels.
Has anybody told you about the commercials he's advertising now on his radio station?
I can imagine.
For New York Hair MD.
No, but I can imagine. Listen, but you got to realize these guys on any radio station, they're going to advertise whoever's willing to pay. They're going to promote it.
Yeah.
So,
but he went and got the procedure at this place called New York Hair MD, and
what procedure was it? Was it a PRP procedure?
The latest NeoGraft procedure. According to him, you don't have to worry about the plugs. Or
are you kidding me, man? He went in. He had a hair transplant.
Yeah, absolutely. Now he's plugging the place where he went.
Well, he's only plugging the place that he went because he got a free hair transplant. That's part of the deal. That's the way it works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but he got a transplant. He's telling everybody about it, and he's doing commercials about it now. But it sounds like nobody who belongs to your organization.
I'm looking it up right now. So let me see. So what do you say? It's New York Hair MD.
New York Hair MD. Yeah, that's what the advertisements.
So it's on East 84th Street, if this is the right company. NYC Hair Restoration?
That sounds correct, yeah. Maybe they have a picture of him up there, or, Curtis Sliwa says...
I don't see it. I don't see it.
I see 35A East 84th Street, NewYorkHairMD.com.
But I definitely see a lot of stock images.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything about Curtis. Let's see. What patients say about NeoGraft. Well, listen, the bottom line is, and no, these doctors are not part of what we do. The bottom line is NeoGraft is just a tool. And if it's used by the right physician and the right team, if it's kind of jerry-rigged where they kind of separate, they don't use the suction, it could extract really nice grafts. But that's all it is. Right. It's a tool. It has nothing to do with the rest of the hair transplant. So it's the sad thing is it's being sold as a procedure, as this kind of state-of-the-art, scarless, painless hair transplant, when in fact, the same type of extractions can be done with a much smaller handheld, punch, or a much smaller, motorized type of punch like the Harris Safe Scribe. So it really is all in the marketing. And the one thing that I always tell people that they have to do, and I have done radio ads for good doctors, and you know about this, Joe. And I've done a lot of radio ads in my day for doctors who I've recommended. But we're talking about the physicians themselves. We're not talking about a specific type of technique, well, we are in some cases, but we're not talking about like a magical type of technique. And anyone who hears an ad on the radio for something that sounds too good to be true, it's usually too good to be true. And I will tell you this, 99% of the time, if a disc jockey or a talk show host is promoting surgery, do not go to that surgeon.
Run, don't walk.
Yeah. You know what, too, Spencer, at the end of the commercial, you mention his name and you get $1,000 off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
But
that's the hook, I guess.
Well, let me tell you something. And I've been in radio for 20 years. Radio advertising, it's the lowest common denominator for advertisers. The absolute, in my view, the lowest of the low advertise on terrestrial radio. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. And one step below like Enron or whatever.
Well, but especially when it comes to medicine. Listen, if you're selling like, a book or some sort of a product or service, that's fine. But when it comes to medicine, if you see a plastic surgeon, cosmetic surgeon, hair transplant doctor advertising on the radio, unless they are recommended by the American Hair Loss Association or the IHRS, I say run. And very few of our guys advertise on the radio. A handful do. And that's it.
Yeah,
I'd say it's on the same level as putting a vinyl sign on the side of a van
Yes.
sitting in a parking lot.
Yeah, and if the talk show host is promoting them, run.
Right.
Like these guys who are talking about going, like they're getting cosmetic dentistry, or these chicks who are here in Los Angeles who are getting like, laser vein removal and stuff, and they're making it like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They got a free procedure, and they might not even had the procedure. They're just promised the procedure, and they're just getting paid to read an ad.
Yeah, well, somehow, I don't know, you've got to hear this thing somehow or another, Spencer. It's laughable. It's a joke. And but it is,
I will go on. He's not on ABC anymore, is he? He's what station is that?
He is. Yeah, he's on ABC still. He's on like in the midday.
Okay, I have to check it out. I can check him out online. I'd love to get this ad.
Yeah, sure. But I got another quick question for you, though, Spence.
Yeah.
In '99, I started on Finasteride Propecia, and it was a miracle drug. It really was. I mean, it worked for me like you would want it to work. And I took it for about 2.5 years, and it was, just did its job, did what the advertised, and even more. Then in like 2002, late 2002, I stopped taking it because you've heard this before, and I know this has happened, and some people have taken the drug, that I just had a feeling that I had to urinate like many times a day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got off, the drug, and it stopped. That sensation went away, and my hair stayed great for a while. But now it's many years later, and in just the last, I'd say it was 2011, did I only get back on it because my hair maintained pretty well. But now it's for me certainly it's noticeably starting to thin, and so I've got a prescription again for it, and I would say I took it for maybe a solid year, maybe more. Not every day, not every day, but close to it. But it just is not doing the job that it used to do now.
Let me ask you, what about the side effects? Do you have that urge, that urination thing again, or no?
No, I did not have that
That's
again.
great.
No, and I think that if I did have that, I would just get off the drug for say maybe however long it would be, maybe a month or so, then go back on it intermittently, not
Right.
every day, but once every 2 days, once every 3 days, maybe
Right.
2 days in a row, et cetera, et cetera. But it just doesn't seem to be, again, I knew when I first started taking the drug in '99, I had a feeling, Spence, I just knew it was going to work. I remember seeing the guy from Merck on, I think he was on Nightline talking about it, and it's a Merck drug, okay? It's not something in the back of, a muscle mag.
Right.
So I kind of had a feeling it was going to work for me, and it did. And I remember one of the things, the telltale things where I felt the drug was actually working was, I think a lot of people have had this too, is, when you ejaculated, not that much came out,
Right.
as usual.
Right.
And that hasn't been the case this time around.
Interesting. Now, are you taking the brand name again, or are you taking a generic?
No, I take the Merck drug.
Okay. There could be a lot of factors, and I think Joe Tillman could touch on this. One could be your age. One could be just the fact that, maybe you've lost more. You're at a point now where your hair loss has progressed more
Right.
than it was when you were taking the drug before, so you were basically maintaining before.
Right.
There's no physiological reason except for a change in your age to think that the drug isn't going to work for you, but that's pretty unusual. Joe, you have a lot of experience in this.
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm now 44.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it could be. Yeah, the age thing is probably the biggest thing on the list.
Well, the only thing that I see is
Right.
as you're getting older, your testosterone is kind of, you don't have quite as much testosterone flowing anyway. So, I mean, a lot of the guys who are older start to use the drug see really great results. But I do know guys who have done well with it for years when they were younger, stopped using the drug, and then are complaining the same thing that you are. But usually, and that's why I asked you, usually they've gone on a generic as opposed to the brand name. But you are on brand name, right?
I had such great results with the Merck official drug that, and I don't really trust generics too much. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, Spencer, but I actually called you a few years ago, and I was in Tijuana back in 2009, and I went into their, all the the city's one big pharmacy, and I got the generic Finasteride.
I do remember that.
I remember
actually,
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me. I got the Finasteride. That's what they call it. It's right there. And I took that, and I just, I took it there because, you don't need a prescription down there, But I did not take the generic drug, and I don't know do you think that there may be some kind of difference to take that, or? Well,
this is usually I'm a fan of the brand, so I'm convinced there's a difference between brand and generic. But you were taking brand name when you were having good results, and now you're taking brand again. So I mean, it's tough. So are you seeing that? Are you continuing to lose hair? Are you seeing that it's progressing?
Yeah, definitely. I would say yes. I mean, I actually have my hair kind of long. It's probably to the shoulder length, but it's I'm like, I despise the wind. Let's put it that way. When I go out, man.
Let me ask you a couple questions. Sorry to cut you off, but I need to ask a couple questions here. When you were taking it before, was it a bigger dosage than you're taking now?
No, it was the 1 pill a day, the 1 milligram a day I took, and I did
1
that,
milligram both times. Okay. And then, do you think that your hair loss is progressing as far as actual loss, or is it miniaturization throughout your scalp? In other words, are you seeing gaps or recession, or is it just becoming thinner all over?
I would say to the latter, maybe thinner all over.
Go see a dermatologist and see if they can look at it closely and see if you're having just miniaturization throughout, which may not have anything to do with the medication. It could simply be an age-related issue.
Well, and let me ask you this: are you on any other medications?
Good question. No, not at all. The Propecia, Finasteride, that's the only drug I've ever taken in my life. I've never taken any kind of prescribed drug other than that.
Okay. When's the last time you've been to had a full checkup and a full blood workup?
Funny. That's probably about back in March. I had some kind of issue with my abdomen. I had a bunch of blood work done. They actually sent me for an abdominal ultrasound and a CAT scan, and they could find nothing. But before that, I had blood work done, and everything came back normal.
Okay, good. Because you want to check your thyroid. You also want. I mean, there could be a lot of things that are happening. I mean, you are a little young in my view, for like aged or age-related alopecia.
Mm-hmm. Senile. Isn't it called senile alopecia?
It's senile alopecia or aged alopecia.
Yeah.
You're a little young for that. You could talk to your doctor about potentially upping your dosage of finasteride, kind of like building it up in your body a little bit, maybe taking 2 milligrams a day. And again, I'm not a doctor. And then, see if you have any adverse side effects, but see, of course, if that helps, because then you can continue on in that vein for a while, kind of load your body up, and then you can kind of cut it back down. See if that can kind of jumpstart the process.
You know what, Spencer? Though, I'm sorry. By that question, like you actually weren't taking, or you were taking. It's not Finasteride, it's not Propecia. It's just the other name they give it, but it comes like in a big sort of block.
It's Proscar.
Proscar, right? I'm wondering if maybe I should try that.
Well, you know what? You've been on the drug on and off for years. It's the same drug, so I don't see why it's not going to hurt you, in my view. And I think that, as long as you're not
saving some money.
Yeah, you're going to save some money. And you can maybe, talk to your doctor about cutting the pill in half, taking a 2.5 milligram dose for a while, see how you do side effect wise, see if you have that urination problem, which I kind of have a feeling you won't. And, see if that doesn't, kind of help with the cessation of your hair loss and maybe some regrowth. I will tell you this. And again, I'm not a physician, but I've always been a believer that finasteride is dose dependent. I believe in my case it was. And what I do currently now is, since I've been taking it for 20 years, at this stage in my life, I'm able to take 1 5 milligram pill once a week, which I will take tonight. I take it on Tuesdays, and it seems to kind of help me hold my ground.
I agree with you, because when I was taking it that first time, and I took it religiously once a day for probably like a year and a half, but then after that I was like, maybe I could try once every 3 days, once every 2 days, and the great results still continued until I had that problem.
100%. And and that problem may have been it may have been related, because you said that once you stopped, the problem went away, but it could have been unrelated. I mean, how long after you stopped did that urge to urinate go away?
Oh God, like I said, this was back in 2002, and I just remember the date because I remember I was doing a bunch of other stuff, and I would say it stopped rather quickly. I would say maybe, just off the top of my head, maybe a week.
Because
that, probably even sooner.
Sometimes you can get prostatitis. It has nothing to do with even taking the drug, and it could have just been. It could have been a coincidence. I've had it, or you can have or a prostate infection, and it can be a transient thing. But you said that it kind of cleared up after you stopped taking the drug. It could have been a coincidence. We just don't know. We really don't know.
It was more like a sensation. I had this sensation. I had to take a piss.
Oh, it's the worst.
A lot, 15 a day, and I would go, and not much would come out. But that damn sensation. It's it's a real pain in the ass. That's why I had to.
It's the worst. I've had that before, and it's just it sucks. Yeah. So I certainly understand. I mean, I don't see the. It's hard for me, and again, I'm not a physician. I have to keep saying that, but it's hard for me to kind of fully understand why it wouldn't be working for you at this point, except the fact that it's years later. The drug is the same. I would talk to my doctor about considering getting on Proscar, and like Joe said, you're going to save money anyway, and you can kind of play with the dose, and maybe you can start with 2.5 milligrams every day, and then if you start to see results, stay that way for like 6 months, and then cut it back to 2.5 every other day, so you're not putting too much of the drug in your body, and this way you still have some room to play. If things are working with you, you could always up your dosage.
Yeah, no,
and I agree with that idea that it is dose dependent. I mean, I've seen too many cases where upping the dose does make a visual difference. In the final result.
I remember back in 2000, I forget when it was, 2010, I had to go to a doctor again. I never go to the doctor, but I went to the doctor in 2010 because I hadn't been to one in 10 years, and somebody recommended this guy in the city who was supposedly, he's been on Charlie Rose. He's a well-known internist. I won't mention his name, but I remember he gave me a prescription for it, and I remember I went to go see him, a follow-up appointment. I guess it was a few months later, and I mentioned to him, this isn't working for me like it used to work. Maybe I should up the dosage. And he just didn't even look at me. He just shook his head and said, ain't going to make a difference. And I was thinking to myself, how do you know?
Yeah.
That's what I thought to myself, how do you know? You haven't taken the drug.
And that's a very, very common response from a lot of, from a lot of physicians, because according to the clinical data, there was no significant, or appreciable difference between 5 milligrams and 1 milligram. I don't know how true that is, to be honest with you. And again, I think Joe has seen a lot in practice since he's worked at a clinic for so many years. And I have spoken to literally, or at least been in contact with, thousands of guys who have been on this drug. And I will tell you, from my experience and from the experience of a lot of guys who have been in contact with me, there's no doubt in my mind, at least anecdotally, it's dose dependent. There's no doubt. Everybody is different.
Yeah, you're right. Everybody is different, and that's why I guess maybe some doctors, not to knock doctors because they're great, but maybe they just forget that after seeing so many people or whatever. But
well, some doctors are great, some doctors aren't so great, and some doctors have better days than others.
Yeah, they're human beings. Exactly, you're right. Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
Good point. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen, Mike, right?
Right,
Mike. Listen, I'm glad you're.
That's my call-in name.
That's your calling name. Well, it's a good call. It's a good calling name, Mike. Listen, I appreciate you listening to the show for so many years, and I'm sorry that you're going through this
awesome,
again.
Spence. You guys are great. You guys are great, man. And really, the show just keeps getting better. Really, I mean, it's because you and it's Spencer. Everybody says it too, but it is. I mean, to find an honest person in real life, but then to find one actually on the radio, and just honesty is it's unique. So. You're the man, and everybody knows it, man.
Oh, dude, I appreciate you saying that. I wish you the best of luck, and please let us know what you decide to do. And I just have a gut feeling that if you talk to your doctor about, getting a prescription for Proscar, upping your dosage a little bit. Again, I'm not giving you medical advice, but talk to your doctor about it. I have a feeling you're going to call us back and say you're doing better.
Well, thanks. I hope so. And actually, you're telling me what I was pretty much thinking I was going to do. So, I think I just, for a minute there, I just had a fog and couldn't remember the Proscar. But I remember, yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen. All right, good talking to you. Thanks, Take care.
Bye.
888-659-3727. Joe Tillman, we're going to take another phone call, and then I probably should take a break, but let me see who we have on the lines. I'm going to go to line 3. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, man, this is Brian, the actor, the other Brian from L.A.
Brian from L.A., man. What's happening? How are you?
What's up, Brian?
I hear the other. How you doing, Joe? Nice to talk
good.
to you again. I hear the other Brian from L.A. calls in more often, and I'm like, man, I thought I picked a name that no one had. So,
you could change it.
Well, it's Brian from L.A.
All right.
Brian, the actor. So
I like that. So what's going on?
I heard that showbiz guy calling too. So you get a lot of little secretive actors calling you and saying, "Hey, we got problems too." You know.
I had a guy that called into the UK show. If you go on The Bald Truth, we just put the segment up, and he's he's not a really well-known actor, but he's known in the UK, and he actually got off of finasteride to impregnate his wife. And now he's all fucked up over it because he promised his wife that he will not get back on the drug until she's done breastfeeding. And,
oh, wow.
And now he's having, his hair's falling out.
The baby's out and sucking on the breast.
Yeah.
And so he's...
Dude, I told him, look,
semen would get in there and change the milk.
That's what women are afraid of. I mean, I'll tell you this, and again, I have to tell them that, look, I don't want them to be the 1 in a million anomaly. Either wear a rubber, or you know what, your wife's got one
have
kid.
Her take care of things another way.
Yeah, exactly. Your wife's got a kid. Your wife's got one kid already. You got a baby. You're not going to have much sex anyway, dude.
You're too tired.
Yeah, so
there's too much going on. Too much getting up at 2 a.m. to burp it.
Well, first of all, she doesn't really want it anyway. So ask her for a handy or whatever it takes to get you through the day, and you don't even have to worry about that risk.
That's interesting. I never knew that. So they're so paranoid that him having sex with her without a condom, without protection, that his semen would mess her up for breastfeeding.
Absolutely.
Am I understanding?
Absolutely. That's listen, because there's this fear. If you go and you go online, you've read about everything that people are writing about the drug. They say that pregnant women shouldn't touch the tablets. Well, in a sense, that's true. They shouldn't touch broken tablets because there's a possibility that there could be some transdermal absorption of the debris,
which has never been documented, by the way.
Which has never been documented, and that's just kind of like. Go ahead.
You should ask him if he has a cat and if they got rid of that cat too, because there's all that thing about the cat feces too and babies and stuff like that.
That's true. Actually.
I mean,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things out there that apparently we could blame on stuff, but to me that's a little far fetched with the whole, I mean the stuff that we drink and eat in our own food is probably worse for the baby's breast milk than anything, like whatever she's eating herself.
Well, the truth is, there's never been any clinical data showing that a woman who is exposed to the sperm of a man who is using finasteride is going to have any type of issue. There's been no issues with the fetus or with once the child is born, no birth defects. So
and the amount of semen, in the amount of finasteride that's carried through once it's expelled through semen is so minuscule to begin with.
Right.
We're talking about a 1 milligram dosage that's spread out through the body, absorbed, whatever, and then once it's delivered out through semen, it's such a minuscule amount. And then it's supposed to go through her system and come out of her breast milk?
Yeah.
No, not going to happen.
Well, did this actor use his real name, or did he come in an alias?
No, he doesn't use his real name. But, what's interesting is this guy, his obviously you're an actor. His career, at least part of it is, his looks are extremely important, not just to his, to himself personally, but just to make a living. And he's really fucked up over it. I'm like, why can't you just confide in your wife? Let her know what's going on. And he's got, he's this British guy, so he's got to be, he kind of has a stern outlook. Stiff upper lip. Can't speak tonight. And he's pretty upset about it. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty out there. That's kind of funny because I called in to kind of reiterate my story, and I don't know if you remember a long time ago when I was considering going in, I did a lot of research, and I didn't go on the forums, but I did do a lot of research, mainly listening to your show for quite a while. And I think I called in a couple of times, and I've gone up to 2.5 on mine daily. And I don't know, for all the people who are new listening, before I even popped the pill in my mouth, I started having problems.
Yeah.
Like, because I was so mentally, and that's because I knew that about myself. When I called, I told you, I said, I know I'm a mental guy, and it's affecting me because I haven't even taken the pill, and I'm already starting to worry about stuff. And it didn't really cause severe issues, but just enough for me to know that, I haven't even taken that pill yet, and I started monitoring how I feel sexually with women and around them. And I got to tell you, the cure for me was just to find the hottest woman out there. I mean, there was no problem. I mean,
that tends to help.
Yeah.
Ex-girlfriends and stuff, you might have a problem. You might get a little agitated by their voice, little things that set you off in the past.
They're your exes for a reason.
Mood.
Right.
But then again, sometimes they're like an old shoe. They feel great on your feet when you slip them on again. But I mean, after I got past that initial hurdle, I just mentally kind of overpowered that whole fear of the whole thing. And now I'm up to 2.5. When I was just starting out, I was cutting them into 4 as a pro scar. And I feel pretty good. And, the last time I called, I told you about the sauna and the actor in the sauna and
I remember that.
Talking to the girl. Well,
Yeah.
I just went to a bar recently with a bunch of friends. There was a birthday party, and all the guys. I work with a lot of younger guys than me, and they all got nice heads of hair and everything, and they're all trying to go after all these girls. And it reminds me of like the bull story. The young calf says, "Let's run down there and screw one of those maids, those cow maids." You heard that joke?
That's right. And let's just take our time and screw all of them.
Let's walk down and screw them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, except for it was kind of reversed. All these young guys were like bouncing around, jumping on all these girls, and and I was like, oh no, they're killing me. They're like calling me, come over here. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to throw in with you guys, because I know you're going to kill it. And sure enough, like 5 minutes later, the girls are like moving on, or they're like, well, we're here drinking by ourselves, and these guys already, blew their wad on them. And so this bartender was coming around, and all these guys were like, this girl's hot, and I'm like, okay, this is the one. She's watching, bartender's watching, and they want some action too sometimes.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, and like she comes over to me, and I don't drink. I don't do anything like that. And she comes over and she just goes, "Can I get you something?" And I pull this little corny, if you do it right with the right confidence and the right kind of personality, it works. But I did this little corny, like I'm a deer in headlamps looking at her,
Right.
and she starts smiling, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say?" And she's like, "Can I get you some drink?" I go, "No, I'm not purposely stuttering. No, I don't drink, but I'm fine." And she's like, okay. So she kind of giggles, and then she goes, "Are you sure?" And I go, "Yeah, you could just walk around and smile every once in a while, and that would be fine for me." And so she come back around, she smile, and then my friend goes, "I think you got some action." He goes, "Get her number." I'm like, "No, I'm going to wait till, it's time to leave. I'm not going to burn myself out on this." So at the end of the night, sure enough, I go over there and I tell her, I said, "Hey, I know this happens all the time, but what kind of man would I be if I walked out of here without even asking you?" And she's all like, so she smiles, and I go, "Do you have a man?" She goes, "No." And I was like, "Okay." And I said, like, "Do you have a phone number?" She gives me her phone number. Went out last night, the whole shebang. It was an amazing night.
Oh,
Everything.
man. That's great.
I mean, like, dude, you get those moments where you're just like, okay, this is exactly what I needed, a breath of fresh air. And, like, it does amazing things for your confidence. It does amazing things for who you are. I mean, today I didn't work out. I ate like shit today, but I feel great.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, first of all, it's a great story. And one thing that I didn't know about you is that you don't drink.
No, I don't drink.
You don't drink at all?
As you know, I'm a pretty social, kind of out there guy, and I like to be able to shut it off,
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I've never started, so I can't really say what it's like when it's on, but I just never felt the need for it, and I've always been, I always have fun wherever I go, so it doesn't matter. I'm just
I think that's awesome, because I think some people may think I have a questionable relationship with alcohol, but no,
I don't question at all. I know you have a problem.
But I do find it interesting when I meet people who don't drink, because usually, in most cases, they did drink, and they drank to the point where they can no longer drink, and it was a big problem in their life. And then there are few guys like you who they don't drink. They just chose not to drink, and they've never really done it. They live their lives without it, and it's kind of like an anomaly.
It comes from movies, and it comes from Christopher Reeve. I watched that first Superman movie a long time ago, And there's a part where, and this is how women women are a drug to me, if anything. If that's one problem I got to watch out for, is going to be women.
Yeah.
So this is how early it was when I was younger. Christopher Reeve, I love superheroes and stuff, and he's Superman, and he does that date with Lois Lane. She's reporting. They don't show this part, but later when they're at Gene Hackman's whatever it is, little underground lair.
Right.
He's a menace, and his girlfriend, Miss Tessbacher, she goes, he's a dream. He's 6'2", black hair, blue eyes, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't do drugs, and she's like swooning over that.
Right.
And I knew that at a young age I couldn't be Superman, but I could live and have his morals and values, and I said I would never do that at that age. And so
that is wild.
It just stuck.
That is wild.
Yeah,
I really wish I saw that movie at a young age.
I did see it at a young age. I think I saw it in the theater. I just didn't have the intelligence to pick up on that and say, that's how I should live my life.
It would have changed my life. Too many nights where I've had to piece my night together by receipts, and that's not good.
Same with me having to do it with security film footage.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's something that is pretty awesome. I feel like I don't need it. The only time it's ever really been a problem is every once in a while you meet a girl and she'll find out about it, and she will act like they think we non-drinkers feel when we're around drinkers. They really feel like kind of awkward about it, and that's times when I wish I could kind of ease them at it. But I usually kind of warm it up with jokes or other things, and like I had this one girl, and she was stacked. I mean, I still think about this girl sometimes, and she goes, "So you're not going to drink with me?" And I'm like, "No." And she goes, "What if I offered you a shot off my naked body?" And I'm like, let's not lie to ourselves. You're going to be naked by the end of the night either way. And that was the end of it.
Nice.
That was the end of it.
You know what? But what I find interesting is you are in the restaurant business, and most people in your business they're drinkers, and probably a lot of them are smokers still. Even in this day, they're still smoking.
That's I still see that. It's like every time I go to a restaurant, I'm always parking near the back for some reason, and there's always a few of them gathered in the back of the restaurant outside,
smoking,
taking their smoke break.
It's always weird to see people smoking at this state. I mean, I was just in Vegas, so everyone's smoking, but it's just like, especially here in Los Angeles, when you see somebody lighting up, it's so bizarre. And listen, I grew up with it. I was smoking as a young guy, and every once in a while, I'll still have a cigarette. I mean, it's been a while, but when you see it, though, when you see somebody in their 20s smoking a cigarette, you're like, what the fuck are you doing? We know what it does to you now.
It is amazing. It really is. In this day and age. Sorry, go ahead, Brian. No,
go ahead. I was just going to say, the girl last night, I'm so sensitive to it that I can actually tell if they're a smoker. Well, that's easy to tell, but even if they're like a casual, like when I drink, I smoke. Right. And I could tell that the bartender was that type. She was not a smoker, but she was the type that smokes when she drinks. Like, that's how sensitive I am to it. But I mean, like, if I had to count out how, if I didn't have sex with any girl that never smoked, I'd probably cut my crew in half there, and that's not going to happen.
No, dude, enjoy yourself, man. And I'm glad that's a great story. And, I think it's an important story for guys, A, who are concerned about using finasteride, because you were talking about the mental issues that you struggle with, because, even before you started taking it, and the fact that, you're a guy who has been struggling with his hair loss, even though to me, when I've met you, you look like you have a full head of hair, for sure. So you're pretty lucky. But I understand how it takes a mental toll.
Yeah, it does. And like the guy, the showbiz guy who was talking about his, when you're doing it for acting, it becomes another thing. Like, I would be shaving my head right now if it wasn't for the fact that I was pursuing the career. Yeah. So that's just the bottom line. Like, I'm prepared to do it. I kind of want to do it. Sometimes I almost do it. And I'm like, but if it's just the career is like, it limits you, unless you're like, already established, like a Jason Statham or something like that. And, I got to get a lot of props to Jude Law, he never did anything about his. He just kind of wears it with pride.
Sure.
But it's everybody's got.
What's my excuse, man? I'm not an actor. What the fuck is wrong with me?
Do it. I think you got a good stature to you, right? And I'm not going to turn all Joe for Staten Island.
Go ahead, you can. I like it. I like hearing that.
But I think if you were to shave and maintain that stature and that physique, I think you would look like a good looking tough guy.
Well, with those guns
think
he's sporting right now, you see him in a short sleeve shirt. I mean, it's like, yeah.
I try not to wear short sleeves on the air because I get too much shit for it.
Well, I'm not giving you shit.
I'm just kidding.
You're looking jacked right now, man.
Oh, thank you.
Well, was it good? Sure, you're good looking. You're good looking man.
You're looking really healthy.
You're good looking man.
Yeah, you know what? And I appreciate that. Shaving for me, though, man, is just I don't want to do it, and I feel I like the fact that I've saved as much hair as I have, even though I have to do the hairspray thing, whatever it is. For me, it works, and you know what? One day, maybe it'll happen. I'll have that option, but because I haven't had surgery at this point.
You're a hair guy, though. I don't see you with a shaved head.
Dude, it's not going to happen.
Well, I gotta encourage you though, because you encourage us all the time to have an open mind, to try new things. I'm going to encourage you. Don't say maybe one day. Say one day you have to try it at least once. You have to try it at least once. Like I don't know your finances, but I'm assuming you could take a decent vacation. And I'm not going to miss you. Maybe somebody's going to, but I'm going to be okay when you get back. And you can go to some island with your girl and shave it off.
Dude, if I shave my
right.
head, how can I not do it for all of you guys? I would have to do it live on the air. Otherwise,
that would be amazing. But I was trying to
good
give
for
you
ratings.
And out there, you just shot yourself in the foot.
Listen, if I was going to go that route, and if I ever decide to do it, I will do it on the air because I think it would only be it's great for the show. But I mean, I'm the hair loss guy, man. If I can't shave my head on the air, who's going to do it?
Yeah, that's commendable. I think you should try it at least once. I mean, you're out there every day saying you got that partial sham and how much you go through. It might be so liberating for you. You might take a new turn. You
might just say, "Okay, Bald Truth Talk is done.
Goodbye.
See ya."
Yeah. Well, I will say this. This is gonna. I hope. I don't want to say something that might jinx me, but I'm hoping to shoot my own short film today. And I mean, not today, but this year. And I wrote the part to where my character shaves his head.
Really?
And the whole process. Spoiler alert, not that it's that big, but the whole process is that he's depressed over something, and he's in the mirror, and I want to really show an intimate kind of look of despair, but also as he's trying to get out into the world again, date and do whatever he's got to do to get on with his life. But as he's prepping himself, he hasn't been working out, he's been doing something. He's looking in the mirror and he's giving himself a little shave on his beard. And as he goes into his what do you call it, the sideburns, as we do sometimes because they overgrow before we get a haircut, he's going into it. He kind of goes a little too far. And I wrote it to where, and I'm going to portray it, so I'll be able to get it, where he kind of gets this deadpan eye stare, where he's just like, I kind of effed up and then screw it.
He's realizing it.
He just goes all the way across. And it's more like I'm hurt and this is a call for help, but he does it too, like to say, fuck it. And that's good. But the thing is before he gets to that point, he's going to be looking at his hairline. He's going to be saying, like, this sucks. Like, I'm getting older. This is not, and it's not about hair loss. This whole thing is not, it's just one of the things in his psyche. And I was going to show that as kind of like an inner monologue for myself and just say, and do it. And that was part of the actual.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you actually get this thing together, and I hope that you do, you can if you want to promote that segment, we'll put it on the site. And then we'll link to your short film, if that's a possibility.
Well, that'd be awesome.
If that's something you want to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely have some things going on with my dad this year where I have to help him with his house and stuff. So finances are weird, and it's probably going to cost me over $5,000 to shoot this thing. So it depends on if I can get all those ducks in a row. But I'm definitely going to shoot this thing. It's already written. I'm trying to get people together, little other characters and stuff to get in there. And it's actually got a pretty, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I've sent it to other screenwriters, and they're all pretty impressed with its message and everything. So, that would be awesome. I mean, we're a ways away, but I'll definitely keep you in mind when that time comes.
I'd love to help you out, man. So, always a pleasure, dude. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad that that's a great story. Now, are you going to see this chick again?
Yeah, she hasn't stopped texting me today, so it seems like it's a foregone conclusion. That's
awesome. Now, are you the type of guy?
Don't text back.
I'm going to take another call. Yeah, I was going to say that. Are you one of the guys that don't text back? I don't even know how to play the game anymore because I have never dated in the era of texting.
In the texting age.
Well, there's game playing, and then there's just again not shooting yourself in the foot. And I'm not. I mean, unfortunately, either way, you have to kind of monitor what you're doing,
Yeah.
and how often you're doing it. And also how text can come across. Short bursts of text are fine as long as they're reciprocated. If they're not reciprocated, it's dead in the water until they reciprocate. That's the way I look at it. So, when she left, I told her that I would, I'd call her or call me, whatever. I kind of just let it up in the air, and I did my little goofy humor to kind of make her smile and make.
You
it
mean
feel
when she left
light.
after breakfast?
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah,
there was no
right.
breakfast. She had to get her own breakfast. I wasn't trying to be a dick. I didn't have nothing in here to eat. Well, I shouldn't say I didn't have nothing to feed her. I just didn't have any food to feed her. And,
Hello.
But no, when I did that, she smiled, and then she texted me when she got home, which is a good sign. And then she texted me later and said, "Call me when you're up," because we actually had a late night, so we knew we were both going to go back to sleep. So there's been a little back and forth. As long as there's back and forth, it's not bad, But if it's like, if you're that guy and you're texting and you're like, "Oh, I had a great time, and I hope we can see you again," blah blah blah. You can, off-put them a little bit. And so at some point,
and then 10 minutes later, why aren't you responding?
Yeah, it's too heavy for me. To me, that's if common law and I just separate, that's what hookers are for, and that's it. I'm just going to.
Hello.
There he is. This guy, man, he just comes right out with it. See, you never have to apologize for anything.
That's right.
You're like, if she comes back and she's like, "I miss you," I'm like, what did I tell you? Hookers, mail order white. It's going. It's on.
That's right.
It's on and pop.
She knows. She knows all about it.
For you if you want to make it.
As long as she knows the guidelines, and
Yeah, she knows the rules. She knows the rules. Brian from Brian. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, did she ever threaten you like that?
To leave?
No, like hookers or anything like that. If you ever leave me, blah blah this.
Gigolos and blow,
dude. She'll just find some rich guy. I'm fine with that.
Right.
She deserves
you
it.
have an exit strategy. Now, this is a sign of a healthy relationship. Having an exit strategy.
Listen, let me tell you something. After 15 years, it doesn't matter what she does at this point. We had a great time, great life. We built a great life together. She deserves whatever she wants in life. I couldn't be bitter. I couldn't be bitter. It was just, it's been too good. Maybe I'd miss her. I'd figure it out. I'm sure, of course I'd miss her. But I couldn't be one of these angry, bitter guys because she gave me so much of her time. That's how I feel about it.
Well, I think Joe would be pretty happy to hear it.
Fucking Joe. All right, Brian, man. Always a pleasure.
All right, guys. It's nice talking to you again.
All right.
Have a good trip.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Jesus.
I wish he'd, I don't know, perk up a little bit.
Yeah. He's so miserable, that
He's
guy.
so miserable.
Yeah.
It's like, it always brings me down when he calls in.
Always just fucking brings the show to a halt. Talking about getting laid and how his dick works on Propecia and all that stuff.
He's always happy because because he doesn't drink and he doesn't need it, and picking up women.
And it's actually true because I met him a couple of times, and the story that he actually waited on me. He was a fan of the show. He waited on Common Law and I in this restaurant, and he didn't even say that he was a fan of the show until he called in a couple of weeks after and said I was the waiter. But he's, I know how old he is, and he looks pretty young. I mean, you can see this guy was never a partier.
Yeah.
It definitely makes a difference, man.
It makes a difference, yeah.
Oh, my God. I live a very contradictory type of lifestyle. I'm back in the training again. I'll work out, I'll eat right, whatever it is, for 3 weeks, and then I'll just lose my shit. And then,
just cave.
Yeah. And then it's you're not going to hear from me for 3 days because I bought a bottle of Jack and I decided to just order Domino's.
I got a bottle of Jack and I'm camped out in the back of Domino's Pizza.
That's it. And then, and then I'm back on. So I think that's kind of like my saving grace. That's why I'm still, in relatively good shape. But
because you're not consistently abusing.
No. And that's the truth. I can't. I cannot drink every day. I never could, actually. It's hard for me to drink 2 days in a row.
Now, when you say drink, you mean more than just like a nightcap. You're talking sit down, bottles in one hand, glasses in the other.
Well, to me, it's kind of and you know the way that is, and Andrew Zarian will, and you've seen it. To me, it's kind of if you're going to drink with the guys, you're going to drink with the guys.
You don't sip with the guys, you drink with the guys.
You drink with the guys. You're having, you're having 5 to 7 drinks minimum.
Minimum. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just the way that it is. But I can't do that. If that happens once a month now at this stage in my life, that's a lot. But I'll have a glass of wine. I'll definitely at dinner, shit like that.
That's my thing.
Yeah, but who knows? All right, let's take another phone call. Hey, you are on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Doug from Chicago.
Joe from Chicago. Or Doug?
No, Doug.
Hey, Doug. Welcome to the show.
Hello,
what can I
Doug.
do for you?
How you guys doing?
You know what? We're doing okay. At least I am. I don't know how Joe's doing.
I'm doing pretty good, I guess.
If I were either of you guys, I would never shave your head. You guys have great heads of hair. You guys have the kind of hair that people going into hair restoration, hope for. Don't come.
Well, that's a very nice compliment. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Spencer, you kind of got that feathered 70s porn look going on. Your hair.
And that's what I'm going for. And it's back, maybe. The style is back. So.
And he'd just be so handsome if you get it cut.
Yeah, just cut it a little bit more.
Just cut your hair, honey. You'd be so much more attractive.
Whatever makes you happy. Who cares what girls think?
That's how I feel, man. All I care about is, one girl and, any other girl that I might be attracted to, but whatever.
I won't take up much of your time. This will be under like a 3 or 4 minute call.
Take your time, man. That's why I took your call.
Earlier today, I had dinner with my father and an old client of his. He was a state's attorney in Chicago, and he prosecuted a murder. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Richard Speck. He killed 8 student nurses back in the 60s in Chicago.
You know what? The name sounds familiar, but it could be because of the iPhone holder that I have. I think it's called a Spec.
Yeah. And
I'm looking at him online right now. South Chicago.
1966, he killed 8 student nurses. And my dad was the state's attorney that prosecuted them.
Interesting.
And today we had dinner with, there was one girl that survived. She hid under a bed. And somehow the Richard Speck forgot about her, and she just stayed under the bed the whole time while all her friends were murdered.
Wow.
And he said he was going through hair loss. He was in his late 20s during the time of the trial. And he said even then, with what was going on, I was surprised to hear that he actually was concerned about his hair loss with the cameras and...
You know what? Actually, I think you called us and told us you told us this before. You didn't give it the full story.
No, I didn't give the full story.
Yeah.
And I was just, I guess, even it bothers everybody. Even when something like that's going on, I guess you can't get it out of your mind completely.
Of course not. Of course, This guy, a huge public case like that's being televised in the '60s. I mean, holy cow! Of course he's, it's funny, as when we were kids and we saw our uncles or whoever was dealing with hair loss, you never thought of it twice. You just thought this is the way these guys looked, and they didn't care. They were men, and we'd see balding guys all the time, and it would never even enter your mind that it affected their lives. And that's why it's so interesting when I hear people who don't deal with hair loss, women, older women who talk about hair loss, and it's just... That connection's just not there. They can never imagine how it makes a person feel.
No,
not
to
mention that, but they criticize on top of it, right?
Yeah.
I was just about to say I was at a bar the other night, and there was a younger guy I'm friends with, and he's dating this girl, and he has, some hair loss. He's 23, and this girl, he leaves the table and he goes sits at the bar. And, that she comes up to him, and he puts his hat on, and she goes, "What's the matter? Are you balding and have bad teeth?" Because he wasn't smiling. And I'm just thinking, what a comment to make to somebody.
I fucking hate people, man.
Yeah, it made me kind of, this poor kid is 23, going to a bar, trying to, he was in a good mood. We just had hockey, some men's league hockey game, and I just couldn't believe this girl said that to him. I mean, and you could see he was just so depressed afterwards. And
all you have to do is, anytime
that didn't even help.
Yeah, but anytime there's like a hair loss article or There's an article on what SMP the other day, Joe. I forgot the paper it was in. I was like a UK paper.
The Sun or the UK Guardian.
Yeah, and
I saw it.
you just read the blog posts, and just people are just so fucking.
I
they're
remember
such
that.
idiots, man. And most of these
if you
things
don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah, but most of these comments come from women. It's just unbelievable because women are so fucking insecure about every aspect of their appearance, and the fact that, and I think that's it's part of they're just projecting because they're so insecure. They think that it's for whatever reason okay to pass that on and to pass judgment and lash out. And you hear it all the time, man. Oh, fuck. You know what? Listen, I am, I love women. I talk about this all the time. Most women are such fucking phonies, man. Once a woman gets to 14 or 15 years old, she just doesn't look the way God intended her to look once she leaves her house. She's already dyeing her hair. She's got the fucking mascara on at minimum. By the time they're 20 years old or 18 years old, they're wearing a full face of makeup. So they're basically wearing a mask. So now they have fake hair color. They have, a mask of makeup on their skin and around their eyes. And then they're wearing, push-up bras and fake nails and all this stuff. And then they judge us about, stuff that we can't even control.
Yeah, like my buddy, the girl that insulted him, she looked horrible. Some girls, when they start drinking a lot in their 20s, some of them lose their looks like by their mid-20s. Their skin gets kind of red. And I mean, this floozy looked like she was stuck in solitary confinement with a bunch of coked-up Avon ladies. She had so much shit on her face.
Dude, let me tell you something. It seems it's usually like the heavier women and the slightly less attractive women that are the most critical women. I have no idea why.
And she was that. She was overweight. She wasn't very. And the prettiest girl there, was very nice to the guy and tried to diffuse the situation and compliment him on his clothes and said he had nice skin. And
so this is from other people where it was an actual scene that was developing.
Yeah, this was at a bar,
Jesus.
and after he was insulted, he came back to the table, and this was a group of girl. The girl that insulted him was with friends, but the prettiest girl in the group was the nicest, and the kind of hogs were the painted hogs were the most I guess aggressive
critical
and demeaning. Yeah, critical.
Yeah. And these are when you go online and you read these Facebook comments and you read blog comments and you look at these people's their profile images or their avatars, if it's them. I mean, they're usually not really attractive people. And I will say you're right about it. Seems like the really beautiful women. Now, a lot of beautiful women are really insecure, but they seem to be a lot less critical in general. And that's why I always tell guys, look, no matter how insecure you feel about yourself, no matter how insecure you feel about yourself, if you're in a bar, whatever, if you're going to meet a woman and you want to go out and meet somebody, you go for the hottest chick in the room because you could be rejected by a 3. Doesn't make a fucking difference. So you might as well go for the 10. And then you can work your way down. But always go for the hottest woman in the room. A lot of guys think they have to kind of settle for what they may, think that, they would make a good match with. That's bullshit, man. I've always shot way above my pay grade when it came to women. And it works.
But you got them.
Absolutely.
Like you married one.
Absolutely, man.
So you won.
Dude, you got to give it a shot. Look, I would much rather be rejected by a 10.
Someone else will. That's all.
Yeah, I'd much rather be rejected by a 10 than a 5. That's how I feel. At least if I'm rejected by a 10, there's a reason for it.
There's a reason for it, yeah.
If I'm rejected by a 5, I'm buying an extra bottle of Jack Daniels and going home.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only way. But yeah, our society right now is at its most superficial, and it's sometimes I don't own a computer.
It's only going to get worse, my friend.
Well,
it's only going to get
not
worse.
only is that it's at its most superficial. I mean, every aspect of our society, sadly, it's garbage. What I'm saying, I would never ever, and this is just the way that I feel. I just can't bring a child into this world Well, some of it's for selfish reasons, I guess, or maybe it's not selfish, just because I'm fucked up myself and I'm so busy with work and everything, I wouldn't be able to give the kid the time of day. So I guess that's not selfish. But also, imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years for these kids. Imagine what they're going to have to deal with day in and day out. I can't imagine. When I was a kid and you were like picked on or you had to deal with shit in school, you left that in school. You came home your house was your salvation. Now they have to go home. They open up their laptops and the shit's continuing online.
And I'm glad I didn't grow up with that. I'm glad I had a Huck Finn childhood where we didn't have that stuff yet.
I like that Huck Finn childhood. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I had like a Bowery Boy childhood. You know what I mean? I used to fill bottle caps with wax. We used to play this game in New York basically it's called Scully. And those were my toys. That's what I did.
Toys for us was fire, nails, rocks.
Yeah. Maybe if I had a little extra money, I would build like a model airplane and then go to the park and burn it.
Exactly. A helmet was something you'd see on Happy Days when Fonzie was jumping the shark.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, man. Jesus.
He was suffering hair loss in that show, but I didn't realize that until I was older. He just looked older than everybody else. He didn't look like a teenager.
Yeah, he had a slight recessed hairline. I actually put up an image of him next to his current self and realized that for the first time that the Fonz was a Norwood too.
It was creepy, his office.
With miniaturization.
Yeah.
I never figured that out.
What'd you say?
It was creepy. His office was the bathroom in Al's place. I don't know why that was.
That's actually very funny and very creepy. You know what really bummed me out as a kid? The first time I saw Henry Winkler not in character, fucked me up.
It was a big letdown is what it was.
Total letdown, man.
What, just a kind of a quiet, subdued character?
Yeah, almost effeminate. When you're a kid and you're whole,
I'm Henry Winkler. Yeah, I'm not the Fonz.
Yeah, your whole thing is like this guy. Like I would actually stop in my day and be like, what would the Fonz do in this situation? That's how important he was to me. He was my hero.
Yeah.
Is jumping the shark, is that an expression that came from the show?
Yes.
It
represents a point when the show started going really far downhill.
Oh, like when the Brady Bunch episode, when Greg was, they were on vacation and he found
in Hawaii. That's the jump the shark episode for them.
Yeah, it was like when I used to have Joe on more often. They people were saying I was jumping the shark.
The show does seem to be he's enjoyable and entertaining, like a Howard Stern type of character. But just like Howard Stern's characters, and I'm not a fan of Howard Stern, but they were not grateful for the airtime that he gave them. They wanted more and more, and and I think you've helped Joe out a lot, and he's entertaining, but I hope he realizes he has a great life. He has a lot of things people don't have. He has money, a house, kids, a wife. Some people live all alone, are living under Lakeshore Drive and in a box. So he does have a good life.
Well,
it's all relative, though.
The sad thing is he doesn't realize it, and you just said a mouthful. He was given a lot, and the fact that there's a woman who's willing to live with him, and he has and he has children, and he has a full pension as from the NYPD, and he has a house, beautiful house in Staten Island. And I mean, he's just totally taken care of, basically. He never appreciated that. And now he's going to be 56 years old, or he is 56 years old, and he doesn't live his life. He's miserable. Life
goes fast, man. It seems like I was just 30 and I'm 43 now. I mean, it's like a blink in the eye.
How do you think I feel? I actually got, and I'll show you guys maybe next week, my mock AARP card in the mail. Basically what they do is they send you this mock card and they say if you order now for $16.95 for the year, you'll get your AARP card and a tote bag with all these benefits. So I mean, beautiful. It's like happy fucking birthday, dude. But actually I was looking at the benefits. I'm like, I'm going to get this thing. thing. And I am be proud to show it during the early bird specials when I go out to eat with Common Law. And use it for hotels and stuff like that. Fuck it. I'm 50 years old.
Why wouldn't you use it?
I'm a few years away from a fanny pack and a jitterphone, and I'm looking forward to it.
You know what? There are times.
As long as I'm healthy and I'm alive and I can do the things I want to do in life. I mean, hair loss still bothers me, but I'm glad I can rollerblade. I was watching. You ever see the movie Born on the 4th of July?
Yeah, great movie. One of my favorites.
There's a scene where he's in the hospital after he lost his legs, and he's dreaming, and in his dream, he's dreaming that he's running.
Yeah.
He's not dreaming that he has a full head of hair again.
That's
so
right.
I'm just thinking, guys that are paralyzed, it could be worse. Their dream is just to get up and walk a few steps. So I'm grateful to have any hair and, my health and everything.
Dude, I
try to kind of look like that way.
And that's the way we should all look at it. Listen, as miserable as hair loss has made me over the years, I have come to terms with it. And, I talk about painting my head. I talk about the process of having to deal with it. And Brian the actor, was saying how I shave my head because I always bitch about, what it takes to make myself feel comfortable in my own skin. I have to tell you, for me, it's a blessing. The fact that I'm able to do this still after so many years, I don't care if I get a couple of, fucked up comments or if it takes me an extra 20 minutes to get ready in the morning. You said a mouthful. The fact that I could wake up and I could see and I could hear and I can do this program, and I could work and I could fuck and I could do all the great things, in life that really...
You have gray hair.
Well, thank you. And brings us pleasure in life when there's people out there who are our age or younger who are sitting in some hospital somewhere looking out the window, dreaming that they could be talking to us, doing what we're doing right now, or being Joe from Staten Island. So I get it, dude. I just have a good buddy of mine who I grew up with who just went through a bout of a very specific type of cancer. I don't want to get into it. And he's fine now. But he's still, he's in a weakened state. It was a crazy year of his life. It was very difficult for him to work. He lost his hair to chemotherapy. And you know what? He just shaved it. He didn't even think about his hair. But you know who thought about his hair? What I found interesting?
Women?
His wife.
Oh, yeah.
And
wow.
I'm not saying she's a nice person, but I'm just saying that's what, and he spoke to me about that. And he's like, I don't give a shit, but, my wife just can't wait till my hair grows back. And I'm thinking, holy fuck. That's unbelievable to me. This guy's, can possibly die. But I get it,
Was that a superficial issue, or was it something that just kind of was like a visual representation of what he was going through?
You know what? That it would be a very kind way of kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think tonight. That'd be a very kind explanation of what went down.
Diplomatic explanation?
What was that?
Diplomatic?
Very diplomatic, but kind and diplomatic. But I don't know if that's the case. This is a good woman. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this woman, but I just think, she may be a little looks oriented. Who knows? Whatever it is, it fucked her up, seeing her guy with no hair.
Yeah.
And, and thank God he's fine. He's going to live a long life. Doctors say that he's doing very well. But he's a guy who's my age. And all of a sudden, boom, one day he's not feeling well. Next day he finds out that he has cancer.
That can happen to any of us any day. Not that it's going to, I hope,
Absolutely.
You got to live each day like it's your last, if you can.
I'm going to try to convince Kamala to go drinking tonight just because of this conversation.
I'm definitely going drinking tonight.
Canada's a beautiful. I used to live in Montreal. I went to hockey camp in Montreal at Thunder Bay. And I toured all the breweries, Moosehead, Labatt's, Molson. Canada's a great place to go out for drinks for Joe Tillman.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Joe lives in a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's different here in Vancouver than it is in Montreal, but it's a very beautiful country overall. And this is coming from American, from the States, so
that's true.
Spencer,
I'm happy to be here.
Are you a California native? Is that where your show's out of?
Well, the show's out of California. I've been living in California for over 15 years. I'm actually a native New Yorker, born and raised. I was born in Brooklyn, and I grew up in Manhattan. I lived in Queens for a while.
Do you miss the seasons, the change of seasons? Or is it nice living somewhere warm? I was thinking relocating to San Diego because I like rollerblading and I have a friend out there, but Chicago can get kind of rough in the winter.
I will tell you this, that I see absolutely, I think it's insane. Like, if you have a choice to live anywhere you want, why would you choose a place like New York City or even, Chicago, which is a smaller city, just to deal with the weather? Now, the lifestyle alone in New York is absolutely insane. As expensive as people think it is here in Los Angeles, it is about 4 times as expensive to live in New York City in a much smaller place than it is to live in a beautiful place here in Los Angeles. The weather here is just incredible. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I definitely, I'm getting a little more marks on my skin from the sun that I probably wouldn't have gotten from New York. But I enjoy being out in the sun. I enjoy it being warm on Christmas. I don't miss snow. I lived in New York, when my dad was dying. I lived in New York for about 6 months again, last year. And it was just miserable. People are miserable. So
yeah, Chicago, I see that. Sometimes I'll go on vacation. I'll be like, shit, when the plane's coming in O'Hare, I can feel the misery waiting. Walk out of the terminal.
I don't care. Listen, everyone says, when you're in New York or you're that's it. It's in your blood. That's bullshit, man. I'm an Angelino at this point in my life. I would never, ever consider moving back. I mean, unless I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't even have to move back for a job because I could do what I do, from anywhere in the world. So for me, warm weather is the way to go. The West Coast is the way to go. I love Nevada. Nevada's a great place to live too. I mean, you do have some season, a little bit of a change of season there. Obviously,
Idaho, Sun Valley, Idaho. That's a great. I lived there briefly. That was really nice.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have a cold season, but it's to me, Southern California. If you're gonna move to San Diego, it's the best weather in the country, man.
I like to go camping and do outdoor things, and Chicago really doesn't have an abundance of outdoor. We have great city parks, but not.
Look, if you like to eat and drink and have live in an atmosphere where it's extremely alive, and big cities like that are great. Los Angeles has that, but also because it's so spread out that you can be like in the heart of a city, and then you can kind of be in the mountains, or you can just drive for a short distance and go skiing. So it's a great place to live.
But well, guys, I appreciate both of you. Really helped me and everybody, and I don't mind. I use a little concealer, and I have most of my hair, and I'm happy. And I don't know Joe from Staten Island, but I do think it would change his life to wear a hairpiece. It's better than wearing paper towels and a hat always.
Don't make me laugh, dude. Come on. It's true, though.
I think he would be able to go out and feel comfortable. It might take a week or two of adjusting, getting used to it, but it might be better than a hair transplant.
He doesn't have it in him. I don't know what it is. He can't.
He seems like a good guy at heart.
He is a good guy at heart. I wouldn't have, kept him on board as far as being, a regular caller on the show for so many years, especially after all the shit I used to get from program directors and, and producers when I was on the radio. I wanted to help him, and I also thought that it was important for my listeners to kind of, see Joe as an example of how difficult hair loss can be on someone's life, and this is what you don't want to be. And there was a certain amount of, obviously, entertainment value there, but I don't think he has it in him to change. I wish that I could say differently. I wish he would, too. I mean, listen, anyone could change. But he has, so far, in the last almost 19 years, he has been unable to make that shift. And there was a short time when he had a health scare where he sounded a lot more upbeat, where he sounded like maybe he had an epiphany, that perhaps he realized that life is precious and that he had a lot to live for, and that was kind of fleeting. And from what I understand from someone who's contacted me and who's in contact with Joe, Joe's in a very bad place right now. So I wish him the best.
I hope he realizes what he has, because there's some guys that are too socially awkward, or not. Some guys not even physically attractive enough to ever have a wife or a girlfriend of their own. So
I know.
He's in the upper echelon of society as far as achievements, and having
He was
his
a
own
fucking
family.
cop, man. He was a respected member of the community.
Every time I watch Blue Bloods and hear someone say "forthwith," I think of Joe.
Yeah.
No one likes Blue Bloods. I don't know. I like it, but no, I can't. No one ever knows what that show is.
I haven't. I mean, obviously, it's a cop show, but I've never actually watched it. But I usually love
Tom
cop
Selleck.
shows.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen. Thanks for the call.
All right, guys.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
All right, you
And
take care.
Good talking to you.
Don't shave your head. Keep your hair. You guys look great.
All right, man. Thanks. I think I'm going to take your
Appreciate it.
advice. Take it
All right.
easy.
All right.
Joe, we got about 5 minutes. I haven't taken a break, but so we're just going to kind of round out the show.
That's fine.
I'm not going to take another call, guys. I'm sorry. Call back next week. I'm going to, like I said at the top of the show, I'm going to try to do the show on a weekly basis like we used to do. So we'll see what happens. But Joe, I think we had an interesting mix of calls tonight.
We've had, I was just thinking, it's like the last few times that we've been on the air live, we've had these plans to talk about, whatever. And it just doesn't happen because we've had call after call after call that are interesting. And
well, you know what
good
happened
subject
today
matter.
is, I got to the studio early and I did my setup, and when I turn on my music, people could hear it if they call in, and I noticed that the calls were coming in like almost 20 minutes before the show.
Which is very unusual.
Well, unless it's Joe from Staten Island.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but what I have noticed, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe Andrew Zarian could tell me, or maybe some other guys, since Joe hasn't been monopolizing, segments of the program, it seems that more people are willing to kind of share their experiences and, call in to tell their stories. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, there is I'm sure that Andrew would confirm this. There is a spike in the number of people calling in with actual stories to share.
Yeah.
And that's refreshing. It's nice.
Yeah. It's a lot more fun to do the show. So we have a couple of minutes. Did you want to touch on something? Was there anything on your mind that, and you said you were a little...
Kind of forgot, but
okay.
No, I don't know. It's just, working in this field, especially independently now, I'm seeing things that kind of remind me about the dirt that's involved in the industry and the way that people look at this. And, one of the things that, that's been on my mind, it's not so much the dirt about the industry, but the reality of the industry is where, if you are, okay, mega sessions and these big procedures that are always so impressive. I used to be a big proponent of those.
Right.
And I'm to the point now, it's like, there are cases out there where, big cases aren't the best approach because, they don't always work. And, no hair transplant is going to work 100% of the time, or no procedure, no clinic. And so, one of the things about FUE and strip and all these arguments that go back and forth is, once you are in for a strip and your procedure is underway, you can't stop.
Oh yeah.
Once that strip is removed, it's gone. It's done. You've got the strip scar. Whether the grafts were inserted or not is irrelevant.
And that's a funny argument that, I think you and I have discussed, the issue with mega sessions years ago and what my thoughts were. And, there were some questions. Some of the guys who were really doing the mega sessions, they would ask me like, why do you work with doctors in the IHRS who are only doing, 2,000 graft cases? And I'm like, the fact of the matter is, even the guys who are really promoting the mega sessions out there, a decent percentage, probably a larger percentage of their practice are the 2,000 and the 2,500 graft cases.
Absolutely.
And, so I always kind of felt like, why would I have to explain that away? This is the reality of hair transplantation. And the best guys in the industry who are really producing the best results, for the most part, are doing what's considered today as relatively conservative cases. And the only reason things are thought, it's thought to be conservative is because of all the stuff we're seeing on the message forums. The guys that are just churning out the 5,000, the 4,000, the 3,500 graft cases, case after case after case, and everyone's showing their home runs.
Yeah.
They're not going to show the failures. And you're right, Joe. If you get, say you get a 6,000 or 5,000 graft case and it fails, then then what happens?
You're pretty much done.
Yeah.
You've got, depending on the type of procedure, but if you get a 5,000 or 6,000 graft case and you've got a significant failure on your head, you have few options for any sort of repair. And it's basically, like Brian from LA was saying, it's like blowing your load all at once. We talked about the guys, his buddies in the bar, and that's exactly what it equates to. And when you're looking at FUE, once you see a few grafts aren't coming out of the extraction properly, or once you see the recipient area, some incisions are being made and there's too much bleeding or it's popping or whatever, wrap it up, go home.
Right. Well, and that's actually a really good point. You can't once you take out that tissue, once you do that strip, you don't have that choice. You can't wrap it up and go home.
No.
You have to go in there and work on that very difficult patient, possibly destroying their tissue.
You have just walked into the Thunderdome when that strip is taken out.
Yeah.
And there's no way, you do not go backward, because once the strip is taken out, it's out. And you could throw it away, or you could dissect it and put it in the scalp. It doesn't matter. If it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the strip is still there.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point that most people don't get. And as far as going back to the larger sessions, I'm also not a fan of just, if you're going in to have a hair transplant, you have to do something that at least is going to give you a cosmetically appreciable improvement. So to go in and have 300 or 400 grafts just to kind of test the waters, I don't think that's a great idea either.
No, and the reason, there are two reasons why that's not a good idea. The first reason is because you're not going to get any sort of feel for what a final result would be by having a few wispies growing out of your scalp. That's not going to be indicative of any sort of success for a larger procedure. But secondly, the cosmetic result. But secondly, it has no bearing whatsoever on the yield or survival of what a larger session would deliver.
Absolutely, that's actually a really good point.
Because if you have a 500 graft session, you're not going to pack it into 4 square centimeters or what have you to test it out, quote unquote, or air quotes. You're going to spread it out from front to back. That's nothing. I could do that on you.
Yeah.
And if you turn around and say, "Oh, that's great," and say, "Well, now let's go ahead and do the 3,500 graft surgery," you very well may have a completely different experience as far as the final growth. And one procedure of 500 will have zero impact on how you can expect the second procedure to grow.
Right, and I think people really need to understand that. So there is this bizarre school of thought that I see online once in a while of kind of just going in there and giving it a shot. It's like when Norman Orenreich told me to try a few back in the day. Now, I would have been destroyed because they were 4mm plugs, but you can't go in there and just try a few. Now, I think it's smart if someone's going in for FUE, the physician has to go in there, extract a few grafts, see how easy it is to extract those grafts. Some guys have these extremely difficult grafts to extract because they're so splayed, or they're different, tissue issues that really are not explained to consumers when they're reading somebody's website. People just don't really understand that. Now, I think you probably explained some of that stuff on your website.
Yeah.
Or you're going to, or you have, or
Well, I talk about like not so much the extraction side of things, and I will write about that, but more like the issues that you run into when you are placing at higher densities. Some clinics will say, God forbid they say we guarantee, but a lot of clinics will say, yes, we can dense pack more than the next guy or what have you, but they don't throw in the caveats of depending on your tissue. And that is a huge issue.
Right.
Because, I remember when I was a consultant, people would say, well, Dr. X says that he can transplant at 70 grafts per square centimeter. And I asked them if they got a guarantee on that. And if they say, of course, no. And I'm like, well, of course you didn't, because that doctor knows that, you may not have the tissue that can support that, because a lot of times the tissue, if you make two incisions too close to each other, the connective tissue in between the two incisions will almost literally disintegrate, and you have one giant incision. And that means that you can't dense pack. You have to back off by about 30% of the density.
Is there actually a word, disintegrate? Is that an actual word?
Did I say it right? Disintegrate. Disintegrate, yeah.
What a jerk I am. Can you believe that I brought that out?
See, if you didn't say it, no one else
would even noticed.
Now I look like an idiot. More so than usual. No, but yeah.
But, but these are all really important points. But I do see things starting to come back to some degree. There are guys, and some of the newer guys that we brought onto the IHRS, and it was really important for me to do this. And I told them, if you're going to present your cases, present your average cases. A lot of these guys have home runs as well. But I'm asking them to bring on and present their 2,000 graft or 2,500 graft cases to give consumers, to give prospective patients a realistic point of view, and some realistic insight. And initially, some of these guys were a little resistant because, of course, they want to put their best foot forward. I'm trying to explain to them that they are putting their best foot forward. They're giving people, a much better chance of having realistic expectations.
Yeah.
Than just throwing out your home runs.
That's one of the things I like about with the doctor I started working with is he has that attitude straight out of the box.
You could tell people who you're working with.
Well, yeah. Well, Dr. Emre Karadeniz, he is the third doctor in Turkey that has been accepted to the IAHRS just recently. I think it was last week or week before.
It was like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
I'm actually really excited about having him on board because, and you could explain it, but this guy's a really caring physician. He's a doctor's doctor.
He is a doctor's doctor, and he and I were speaking for several weeks before we decided to work together. And when I made my announcement that I'm no longer affiliated with any specific clinics, he actually reached out to me because he had some operational questions. Like he said, what would you do in this case, and what would you do in that case? And we just started talking, and he said a few things to me that really impressed me because I wasn't digging for this. We weren't talking about doing business together, but he just kind of offered these things up. Like, I think I was kind of joking around about being the best in Turkey or the best in the business or something. He said, every doctor would love to be known as the best doctor in whatever field they are, but I wouldn't want to be that person unless I actually earned it.
Yeah, that's very telling.
And I didn't solicit anything like that. We were just chatting, right? And he just kind of brought that up. And another thing that he said that I thought was really interesting, and this goes along with what you were just saying, was, we were talking about photos, and I'm really a stickler for photos when it comes to hair restoration. Yeah. He said he doesn't understand why people don't show all angles of the scalp, even if it wasn't worked on. Like if it's a Norwood 3V, bald in the crown, why not show the entire rotation of the scalp instead of just the front? Because we're not walking around just in a two-dimensional world,
right?
So he doesn't understand why people wouldn't do that. That's what he does automatically. And I saw that as another thing that just tells me not only does he gets it, he cares. Yeah. And
look, I like the guy. He speaks English, which is a huge plus.
Yeah,
it's absolutely huge. That communication is, in my view, is vital.
It's almost his first language. He was born in Scotland.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, and this is not something to take lightly, and this is not hyperbole. There is not a week that has gone by in the last 6 months that a Turkish clinic has not applied to the IHRS. These things are popping up like weeds in Turkey. Yeah. And, because of the, the exchange rate now, the dollar versus the euro, this dollar is much stronger. It's unbelievable.
It's a smoking deal.
Yeah. And all these guys have money. They have checks in hand. They want to pay me. They want to be on board. And it's not a problem. I could easily take 10 guys on, make an extra $250,000 a year, and no one would know the difference. It wouldn't make a difference. Just, okay, the guy's got 10 Turkish doctors on board. But I know what's happening. And sadly, the vast majority of these doctors who are applying, they're not even doctors who are applying. They're clinics. They're entrepreneurs who contact us. And they don't even give the doctor's name. And then when we contact them back, they have there's such a turnover of staff that they can't even give us a doctor's name. It's like, okay, well, next week we're getting a new doctor in.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit. But what people are doing is they're going abroad, they're seeing these prices. It's a smoking deal to go to Turkey to get a hair transplant. And they are finding, in my view, they're finding the wrong clinics.
We actually had a guy on, or I should say you had a guy on last year. He called in from the UK and he went to Turkey.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And I've actually been trying to get a hold of him because I want to get an update on his case, but he was scared to death because he got to Turkey and the doctor that he was supposed to have the procedure with was no longer with this booking agent.
Yeah.
That he had gone through. And so he went to Turkey expecting one doctor and he wasn't available. They said, "Oh, he's no longer working with us. We didn't want to work with him anymore for whatever reason. But we have this other doctor, and he's really good." And so, he was kind of going through all this in a daze, eyes glassed over because he was just kind of so shocked from the change in status of who he was going with. And so, then he calls me like a week later, freaking out. He's like, "I just found you and you look like, sound like someone I can talk to. I need to run this by you." And he was scared to death. And I had to kind of bring him down a bit and calm him down. And then he called the show and talked to you. And it's indicative of what's not just going on now, but it's going on now even more than it was a year ago.
Oh, dude, it's getting even worse. There's actually a thread on Ball Truth Talk, which actually I saw that you were involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an older thread that was kind of brought back to life, and I don't know. I didn't. I read it, but I forgot some of it. But it was a guy that was looking for hair transplants in Turkey, going to one of these non-hair transplant sites.
Yeah,
and it's interesting because the guys that were posting on there, they said it. They basically gave the guy good advice. The truth is that there's so many clinics out there that they're trying to advertise wherever they can possibly advertise. So you're going to see all of these companies that are promoting these, cosmetic surgery tourism, places, and there's plastic surgery sites, and there's all types of. I mean, there's so many websites out there that a cosmetic surgeon of any kind can advertise on, and it's frightening.
Well, another thing that I'm learning, and I've been since I've been working with Dr. Karadenez, I've really started to dig in and do a lot of research about the Turkish market. And what I'm finding out is that these middlemen companies that are arranging for Westerners to come into Turkey, they're taking a massive chunk of the overall price for the procedure, and these doctors they're making peanuts.
Yeah. For
these procedures. The technicians are mainly doing all the work, and the doctor, he's doing some, but it's almost like indentured servitude. It's like they're reaching out for anyone that can bring them business just to make a living.
Right.
While these middlemen companies are the ones that are the entrepreneurs that they have this business mentality, and they're trying to make money hand over fist, and they're making like 30% of the cost of what you're paying for your surgery is going to them and not to the doctor.
That's amazing. Yeah,
it is amazing. Blew my mind when I found this out.
Yeah,
and it's just the point of this is buyer beware. Understand what you're getting into, and always try to talk to the doctor if you can, or through a translator. To see what the doctor himself is like or herself.
Yeah, and don't believe the bullshit that you read online, man. It's not just about price. I mean, guys, you got to get that through your heads. You got to get that. I understand you want to save some money. Yeah, there are a few doctors in Turkey who are doing really great jobs. There are a couple of doctors in India who are doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to take that risk and travel, fine. There are resources out there. There are places where you can get a really great procedure, but you got to do your fucking homework, man.
A lot more than you may realize.
Yeah,
because when you're jumping into this, first off, you're dealing with language barriers, and you know, the translations aren't always going to come through the way that you may expect or hope. And so sometimes you have to ask the same question 4 different ways to get the right answer. I mean, it does involve
I have to be honest
work.
with you. You know, for the savings, for the cost savings that you're going to have for flying to Turkey, I would hire a local translator.
Yeah, no, that's a good point for sure. And you know, like you said, the great thing about Dr. Carradena is he does speak perfect English, so that's not necessary. And actually, when you call the clinic, you're speaking to him anyway.
Yeah.
Because right now he's answering his own phones. But yeah, I mean the point is you know, yeah, great deals to be had, some really great work that you can find over there, but more than ever, do your due diligence. Yeah, research.
Honestly, I could see guys in the UK who you know would go that route. I don't see too many adults who would kind of make that move and, you know, go that distance for cosmetic surgery. But, you know, I guess there are people out there that really just want to save the money.
I think there's actually a subset of at least like older Americans, and not going so much to Turkey, but there's I've known for like years there's been this giant industry of going to Thailand.
Yes.
For dental work. Or
yeah, but they're also they're going for dental work. They're going for a girlfriend for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
you know, it's all inclusive.
Yeah. I remember this is so funny. I remember seeing about 7 or 8 years ago an ad, a website for some sort of former Soviet bloc country where it was actually the first hair transplant tourism website I'd ever seen. And it was actually a hair transplant cruise. Where you get on a boat.
Yeah.
And
imagine that shit.
Like it's after you have your hair transplant and you get on this boat. It's like this probably like a 50-year-old small cruise ship. And you got these buxom, like these Russian mail order brides hanging all over you. And they got these pictures of these fat, you know, bald, you know, American guys with bandages on their heads and a drink in their hand, and these like, you know, 20-year-old Svetlana, you know, Gorbachev hanging on.
Let me tell you something. If the work was good, I'd do it.
And they look so ridiculous, these pictures. I mean, it was embarrassing to look at this, but at the same time, it's like, sure, why the hell not?
Well, but the truth is that's what's happening to medicine. You know, sadly, cosmetic surgery in general, hair transplantation it's been so commoditized that it's almost a joke. People don't look at it as medicine anymore. The medicine has been completely taken out of the equation. And sadly,
it's a spa experience.
Yeah, even the best physicians in the world feel the pressure, and my computer's so loud right now, feel the pressure to promote themselves and market themselves in some capacity in that direction, that whole spa experience. Even some IHS doctors. I'm not going to name names, but it's like,
you know who you are.
Yeah, it's like, come on, guys. You know, you're the best of the best. You don't need to compete this way. But there's just so much pressure out there. And I have to tell you, mainstream cosmetic surgery is even scarier. It's even scarier what's happening. I mean, even right here in Beverly Hills, just the price gouging, not gouging, the price wars, and just, you know, what people are offering. There are guys out there that are now they're doing PRP into penises.
Get the what?
Yeah, PRP they will inject your dick with PRP with your own blood.
To what end? What possible? It's like
they claim that it will increase the blood flow, obviously, and maybe you know, engorge it a little bit more, and strengthen.
Inject water into it, it'll engorge it.
And
get out of here.
And strengthen your erections.
Oh my god. Oh
you know?
my! I just We're all going to hell now.
But
civilization is over.
But let me tell you something. There's a couple of doctors, and they're actually good doctors. I'm telling you, they're good plastic surgeons who are offering this, and they feel the need to have this as part of their repertoire, so to speak, in order to compete and to bring male patients in.
God,
you know, it is what it is.
The rapture is here. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
it's like.
And guys, it's only fucking getting worse. So just be careful. Joe, I'm going to close up shop. Great show. Thank you so much for joining us as usual.
Pleasure.
I'm going to give out your website. It's
Okay.
hairtransplantmentor.com.
.com.
Joe's done he's put a lot of work into it. There's a lot of great information on there. And, listen, you are the original hair transplant mentor, man, so you deserve it.
I appreciate it. Worked hard for it.
Absolutely. You got it. Guys, let me get out the website. It's thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. Also, if you want to watch the show, it's archived on gfqnetwork.com. You can see it on GFQ's YouTube page. Obviously, you can download both the video and audio versions on iTunes. So, check it out. We got a lot of downloads on iTunes. If you want to learn more about the basics of hair loss, check out the American Hair Loss Association. That's AmericanHairLoss.org. If you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers through our message forum, go to baldtruthtalk.com. Just please really remember to take what you read on any message forum, even ours, which is the most trafficked quasi-private forum in the world. Take it with a grain of salt. Understand that you're not always getting information, or the information that's being put out there isn't necessarily from a verified resource. Know who the resources are. It's great to learn, share, interact with people, talk about, your issues, get some insight and some opinions from others who are on the forum. But if you're going to make a decision to have surgery or buy a product or a service, make sure that the information you're getting is from a verified resource. That's baldtruthtalk.com. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.